least I didn't have to whistle. Welcome, everybody, to the Plymouth Select Board meeting, our first town hall on the road of the year.
Got to be really close.
Oh, sorry, okay. Excuse me. All right, I'll start that again. Welcome, everybody, to the Plymouth Select Board meeting, Town Hall on the Road. This is our first of the year. It is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026. The time is 6:00 p.m. Per Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of the Select Board after notifying the chair, subject to reasonable requirements of the chair, so as not to interfere with the conduct of the meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any recordings. I'm aware of the local scene recording. Is there anybody else? Mr. Manns, you are recording, okay? Thank you for letting us know. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law on March 28, 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote means and in person. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner. Tune into the local scene government cable access channels, Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 47, and watch the meeting as it is aired live, or you can watch it recorded later, or watch the meeting live on the local scene website or YouTube channel. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner. Tonight, you'll join us in person at the Cedarville Fire Station Community Room, 2209 State Road in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Remote, you can click on the Zoom link that is in our agenda and to participate in the meeting remotely. So please rise and join the board in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Before we get into licenses and admin notes, I just wanted to note two things. First of all, Mr. Golden is attending some funeral services, and he will be joining us by Zoom a little bit later. And then Mr. Quintal wanted to say a few words.
Yes, I would like to call for a moment of silence for two individuals, residents of our town, who are very important. Jean Lane, who served as selectman from 1992 to 1998, and Bobby Clark, our beloved journalist from WATD. I had the pleasure of working with Bobby for 20-something years, and I respected her till there's no tomorrow. She's probably the only journalist that I know of for myself that I never had an issue with when she reported something, because she always reported the true facts, whether you agreed with her or not. She had a special way, and I'm going to miss her, and I'm sure everybody else is. She did a great job. So if you'll please join the board in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dickie. Okay, we have a number of licenses to approve here. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move them as listed.
Okay, I have a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Okay. Discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The licenses are approved. We have two admin notes to approve. I'd like to pull out number 2 and pleasure of the board for admin note number 1.
Approve as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. All right, Mr. Canty?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, the admin note passes. Okay, the one that I wanted to call out has to do with The board will decline to take action relative to an act authorizing municipalities to opt into a temporary pilot to extend the hours of liquor licenses and to allow for public consumption in designated districts in summer of 2026. This refers to a state regulation that will allow establishments with liquor licenses to continue to serve until 3 a.m. up until July 31st of this year. Municipalities need to opt in if they want to take advantage of that. We are choosing to decline to do that. And Mr. Brindisi, I think you have a little bit more information just to make sure people understand what we're talking about here.
Yeah, sure, Madam Chair. So as we have heard in the news, and it's been well publicized, that the governor had approved this act authorizing, because of the World Cup taking place here in Massachusetts, allowing restaurants and bars to stay open until 3 a.m. and even allowing folks to carry alcohol out and go on to their next stop out of the establishment. And so the only way for that to take effect was for the local licensing authority, in this case, the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board, to approve that and opt into that act. The board hasn't taken that action just yet, so we've encouraged our restaurants and bars to not extend their operating hours until the board has taken such action. I can tell you, I did have a conversation both last week and this morning with the police chief, who wanted me to advise the board that he has spoken to other chiefs, and mostly in the Metro Boston area, who have reported some challenges with those cities that have opted into this, and some of the problems they have already faced with bars and restaurants having extended the operating hours into 3 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, what is the pleasure of the board on admin note number 2?
Well, if we don't do anything, we are not opting in, so unless, do you think we need to take a vote to not opt in, or if we just?
Legally, you wouldn't have to do anything.
Right, we would just
This was more, there were some concerns, some restaurants owners had thought that they could automatically extend the operating hours based upon the news reports that they saw.
Right.
And so this was just an opportunity for the board to take action in some way.
Okay.
Just to make it clear that we were not opting into that. And I believe that we also sent notice to all of our liquor license holders that we were
did.
not doing that. So maybe if we don't need to take a vote, then we'll just say we decline to opt
Yeah,
in.
Our licensing agent had sent a message to our license holders last week that the board would be having this discussion today. Jade sent a reminder to them that if they wanted to come here this evening to take a position on this, they had that ability to do just that. If the board takes no action today, we will send a notice tomorrow morning letting them know that no action has been taken, and so therefore they will not be able to extend their license.
Okay, all right. Kevin?
I think that 3 a.m. for alcohol is very late in the town of Plymouth. I think that something like that may make sense in Boston or that general region with tea service by rail or bus, but that particularly down here, and especially for any bars or restaurants outside of the downtown, where you'd have almost everyone would be driving there. The prospectus for late night poor decisions is significantly higher, so I don't think it would be in the best interest of the town to opt into this legislation. So I would be in support of declining it, whether that is a vote to that effect or whether it is taking no action.
Okay. Yeah, no, I completely agree. It does make more sense if there is public transportation to support this, which we do not have, so. Any other comments or thoughts? Okay. So I guess if we don't need to take any action, we can just let it slide and
Sure.
move right
Table.
into the manager's report.
And we will certainly send a notice to the license holders tomorrow, just so it's very clear.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So when we are on the road, we mix up the schedule, the agenda a little bit. So we're going to kick off with the town manager's report.
Great. So I want to break my report into two parts. So one, I'm going to focus on some items that are taking place in this part of town, and then there's some more general announcements I'd like to make. So first, as you all know, when you walk into this building here, you see a sign up there for the Small Business Administration. Just last week, they announced the availability of low-interest federal disaster loans. It's for small businesses and for private nonprofit organizations to help offset any economic losses caused by the blizzard here in town occurring from February 22nd to the 27th. And so the SBA came here, they opened up shop in this room last Thursday. They will be here Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then on Saturday at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Next Thursday will be the last date that they're scheduled to be here. And so that may move a little to the left or a little to the right based upon the volume of individuals that come through here. So they did state that if they're not getting any foot traffic, they probably will close up early. So those businesses or nonprofits that are interested in this, I would suggest that they come here sooner rather than later. We want to make sure that they can take advantage of these low-interest loans that SBA has to offer. I just want to also report that the Elmer Raymond tennis courts are now open. So as we all know, they were in very much disrepair over the last couple of years. And so thank you to town meeting members who appropriated the sum of money to make those courts back into good condition. So those are now open. And the swap shop is also now open, located here in Cedarville, and that'll be open from 9 a.m. to noon time on Saturdays. And then I met with the DPW director this morning, who wanted folks in this community, in this part of town, to know that the comprehensive wastewater management plan is still in the works. They are headed towards the public engagement phase of this plan. They will be scheduling for the precincts in this part of town, probably in this room, an opportunity for residents to provide input to the comprehensive waste management plan. They're going to start that this summer, so be on the lookout for the announcement of when that will take place. And I just wanted to also make note that the DPW director has stated that the landfill testing continues. We will be posting all results of any landfill tests on the town website. Right now, we are testing the water quality twice per year, and we're doing any tests for any noxious gases 4 times per year. And so again, I know that's of interest to a number of folks in this part of town, and I wanted them to be aware of that the testing is ongoing and will continue. There's a few other things I just wanted to bring to the board and the community's attention. Just recognize a number of town officials for the great work that they've done. So first I want to talk about Mary Beth Ryan. Mary Beth Ryan, she works at the Center for Active Living, and she received the Commonwealth Pride Award last week. So she was invited to the State House, where she was given a citation by our state delegation. I just want to read a couple sentences from her award. Mary Beth Ryan embodies compassion, dedication, and community in everything she does. As a coordinator of support services and Meals on Wheels at the Plymouth Center for Active Living, she oversees the daily nutritional care of seniors who may be homebound, have difficulty cooking, or face food insecurity in our community. Mary Beth works tirelessly behind the scenes, always with humility and grace, ensuring that others are cared for without ever seeking recognition for herself. Her impact on the Plymouth community is immeasurable, and her dedication inspires everyone around her. So that's just an excerpt of her award, and I just wanted to just note that, we have a superstar amongst us in Mary Beth Ryan. I want to congratulate her for that state recognition. I also want to recognize Tim Carboni. He is a water pump station operator for his 20 years of service. He's retiring this week, so congratulations for Tim in his future endeavors. And then I just want to end with, I know Select Board Member Iaquinto, Select Board Member Cohen, myself, and others from town staff had the opportunity last night to attend the literacy program at the library, where we saw 23 adults graduate last night. And a lot of thanks goes to Mandy Light, the library director, and Kristen Enos, the coordinator of the literacy program. But if you haven't had the opportunity to attend this graduation, I would suggest you mark it on your calendar for next year, because it's a powerful graduation where, individuals have really committed years to go ahead and get their high set. And then this opens up doors for them in the future, to the point where, we've already had conversations with the Human Resources Department today about what can we do for these graduates moving forward in the future, and can we create a pipeline of graduates into our workforce. And so more to come on that, but congratulations to the 23 graduates, and congratulations to Mandy Light and Kristen Enos for, again, another job well done. So thank you very much, and here to answer any questions.
Any questions? Questions from the select board? Not you yet. Any questions, Mr. Canty?
In terms of the SBA, I assume, but we'll ask anyways, we've notified like the Chamber of Commerce and other local business organizations in the community about?
Our assistant town manager notified the Chamber of Commerce and the other organizations that would be connected to businesses, yes.
Okay, thanks.
We have someone from the US SBA who's going to give us a little overview just prior to the public comments starting, so maybe she can shed some light on that too. Great. Did you have a question, Bill?
Yes. Yes, that was an interesting yearly event at the Plymouth Public Library, where they have the continuing ed graduation, high school graduation equivalency ceremony. It's been going on since 1989, spearheaded by the the library trustees and the foundation. They're a very crucial, critical part of how our library functions, the Board of Trustees and their foundation. It's something that they spearheaded many years ago. So it is, I often say, if you want to be inspired, you go to a high school graduation, you're going to hear some remarks that are going to give you a renewed sense of the future. But that's a special event, and I'm glad that it was represented by people from the town taking part in that. So thank you for attending.
Yep, thank you. I actually tutored in that program many years ago, and it's been amazing to see how much it's grown and how many more lives it's touched. So I agree with Mr. Brindisi. If you have an opportunity to attend, it will be a life-changing experience. Okay. Anybody else? Nope. Okay, let's move on. We're going to move into the public Q&A session. We have, before we get to the general public, we do have a request from Tahita Mateen from the U.S. Small Business Administration, wants to just give us a little bit more information about the disaster recovery program that Mr. Brindisi mentioned in his manager's report. Welcome, Tahita.
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me, and thank you for mentioning the Small Business Administration. But I am the public affairs specialist from the U.S. Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Recovery. That's boots on the ground, making sure that residents understand of the economic help, the business owners. Certain things that this economic injury disaster loan can pay for is payroll, taxes, light bills, any operating expenses from people that was affected by the blizzard in February. And this is not only for businesses, but nonprofits, aquaculture organizations, agricultural cooperatives. We can also help business owners with reimbursements, because we are here in June and it happened in February. People may have used their savings or credit cards, but they can apply for a low-interest disaster loan at 4% interest up to 30 years, no payment for the whole year, no interest for the whole year, and kind of pay themselves back if they used a credit card at like 20% or something like that. And also the center, of course, is right here in the building. So we encourage those business owners. It is better to talk to people in person, as we all know, face to face. And so our staff is ready and willing and waiting for business owners to come in and talk to them about what happened to them in February and how they can continue to move forward. Just one more thing I want to mention is that these low-interest disaster loans, the funds, you do not have to go into a bank. The funds come directly from the U.S. Treasury Department, and we want to make sure that this disaster recovery is out there for businesses who may need it. So we're here to help business owners go through these tough areas. It happened in February, but we're here to help people move on through their recovery process. And thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry. We have reached out to the chamber. We actually visited them yesterday and visited the visitor center. So we're just making our rounds trying to get information on media, of course, the chambers and all of the counties, and just, if there's any other organization that we should visit while we're here. I have Jade's information. She has mine, and we can kind of go through that information, and we'll be happy to visit them.
Great, thank you.
so
And thank
much.
you for being in the community.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Shumway. Sure.
Yes, thank you for that overview. Is there any other locations that you'll offer this interaction? I know you're in Cedarville. You got some hours here that the town manager outlined, but are there any other locations in Plymouth? Plymouth is kind of a big town, so there's the northern area. Where can someone meet you? Is it only here?
Yes, this is the only location that we were able to lock down within the
Okay.
time that we were going to be here. But if you have any other ideas,
Yeah.
I will be happy to pass that along to our officer in charge.
Yeah.
And depending again on the traffic,
Yeah.
we may look into other areas or the hardest hit areas to see if we can get no cost space there as well.
Okay, so just to reiterate, the best way people can contact you if they can't make it here is?
Yes, so I do want to mention, thank you for saying that, because this center will be closing on July 1st, depending on traffic. The deadline is March of 2027, and people can go online at sba.gov/disaster, and they can find their county, their city, and the business owners can put in all of their information and losses, and then just wait for a response. So sba.gov/disaster is where businesses will have to go after the center is closed and we've moved out of the area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving into the main event, our public question and answer session. So as you remember from last year, the purpose of this is just to engage all of you in some a broad and civil conversation about the issues that are important to this part of town. So I just wanted to go over the ground rules once again. So we have a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. You'll hear a noise coming out of Jade's computer, some sort of signal, at about 2:45. So that will tell you that you've got 15 seconds left, okay? If we could keep it to one question at a time, because we have a lot of people here in the room, we want to make sure that every single person gets an opportunity to speak and ask a question. So if you could limit it to one question at a time, that would be great. And then that will give everyone an opportunity to be heard. And then we're happy to, give you a second opportunity once everyone who wants to speak has had an opportunity to do that. Okay, does that make sense? All right, let's get started then. Who would like to be our first speaker? Yes, sir.
My name's Don Williams. I live at 42 Carter's Bridge Road. I don't have a question, but I have a clarification of what the CWMP is doing, the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan. I'm one of those 5 people who were appointed as Citizen Advisory Committee. What we're doing is we're dividing the precincts up according to their status in terms of likelihood of having sewer. So my responsibility is to take precincts 8 and 9 and 12 and 17 and 16 and 17 and find a place for them to ask questions. And we're going to make a presentation based on the likelihood of sewer happening in that area. And we've grouped them according to that. So it's not going to be here. It's probably more likely going to be, if I can get it, into the intermediate school during the summer. We have a meeting on the 29th rather, and that presentation will be given to us by Weston and Sampson, the consultants. and we're going to look at it and decide when to hold these in each one of the groups of precincts. So this room would probably, hopefully not be big enough. People can come and ask their questions about sewer, the cost of sewer, the criterion that were used for determining what's going to go on in Plymouth. So I just wanted to make that point. Thanks.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's great. What else? Yes, I see a hand right there. Yes.
My name's Christine Cody, and I just have a quick question. I couldn't help but notice that what's taking place right now is now called public question and answer instead of public comment. So does that infer that questions will be answered?
That is what that infers. Yes.
So that's
yes.
a change.
In
That
this
is a
book-
change.
When we do the on the roads, we are able to engage in back and forth. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's always been. But in our regular select board meetings, we don't tend to respond to comments. Yes. All right. Yes, Roz.
Hello, Roz Jones, Precinct 9. First of all, thank you, Derek, for recognizing my wife, Mary Beth Ryan. I know she's a superstar, and it was quite an event at the State House, and she's so humble. She didn't really tell many people about it. That's just her personality, sort of service without looking for recognition. We have different personalities, so I'm here more to make a statement, a comment than ask a question, but you certainly can respond to this. At the April 7th Select Board meeting, the Finance Director presented a 5-year budget forecast that painted a very dark picture. The forecast was based on key assumptions about both the growth rate of revenues and the growth rate of expenses. The growth rate of revenues took into account key historical data about state aid increases over the past 20 years, and it also assumed that the town would tax at the allowable max of 2.5%. These assumptions seem solid. However, this is not the case with the assumptions about the growth rate of expenses. In the words of the finance director on that night, these numbers need a deeper dive. To be specific, the expense growth in the forecast assumes a flat 4% annual inflation for both the school side and the town side department budgets. On the town side, the model assumes this flat 4% applies to all the different departments, including police, fire, and DPW. This is clearly unrealistic, as many are aware. Police, fire, and DPW comprise the largest portion of the townside budget. In fiscal year 2026, the police budget increased 6.2%, and in this past fiscal, for 2027, it rose much higher than that. Furthermore, in recent years, there's been frequent discussion about the need to raise salaries and headcount in the police department. With all this in mind, is 4% growth realistic? As far as the DPW budget is concerned, given the state of Plymouth's physical plant, is it realistic to assume that the DPW budget would require just 4% per year? As a reminder, even with this conservative estimate of expense growth, the forecast indicates Plymouth faces a fiscal hole of $1.4 million next year, $3.2 million the year after, and rises to $14.5 million in 5 years. It is imperative the leadership of the town addresses the looming fiscal situation with a sense of urgency. Why would we sit around with an admittedly partially baked forecast that probably understates the severity of the situation? It has been 77 days since the forecast was first shared. This is almost an entire earnings quarter for a publicly traded company. There has been no update to this forecast. If it is believed that Plymouth will face, and I'm almost done, a $3 million deficit in just 2 budget cycles from now, what has been considered to minimize the possibility of layoffs? If there's a hiring freeze currently in place, will it be in place indefinitely? What actions can be taken to rein in health insurance costs and other fixed costs, which are inflating at a much higher rate than what was presumed in the finance director's forecast? Not one agenda posted since April 7th has indicated any executive sessions to address approaches to these issues. And yes, there have been a couple of budget workshops, but there has been no deeper dive yet that we've seen into the numbers to ensure an accurate picture of Plymouth's future. Please take bolder action and be more transparent. Please lead on this issue.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. I am going to comment. I'm just going to lay out what the process is because you raised some really critical issues, and I know that we all up here share that sense of urgency to really get our arms around the budgeting process for this year, and I think that we've made some really great strides. We are going to start seeing, having monthly presentations of monthly financial reports. That's going to start the beginning. The new fiscal year starts on July 1st, so we'll get our first report for the month of July in August. So the last Tuesday of every month we'll hear a presentation from the finance director on the prior month's results, what it's telling us, what it's not telling us, red flags. So she'll go over all of that. And then in September, we will also look at a revised 5-year forecast. The reason we're waiting until September is because we want to base it on real numbers. So we'll look at, with the fiscal year closing on June 30th, we'll have those numbers to plug into a really robust financial modeling analysis that Lynn is already starting to work on and think about. So we'll see that in September. I know that everyone is really eager to see those numbers, and no one more so than I and the rest of my colleagues here, but that's the process. And then we do have a lot more to come in terms of the way the budgeting process is going to unfold and the amount of transparency that will happen in that process. We'll have department heads in to the select board meetings to talk about their budgets. We're going to ask them to present 3 different budget scenarios. All of that will be available for the public to participate in, either in person at the select board meetings, or it'll be recorded and you can watch it at your leisure. So, Mr. Canty.
So although I do think that the new budgetary review process that the select board is going to engage in will be beneficial in terms of having those reports on a monthly basis and those abilities to have a deep dive and to spend longer with the budget on our side of the equation than historically we had, although we did spend this past year more time on the budget than we had historically previously. So we're making forward progress in those directions. But I do want to caution, and I have from the beginning, that this forecasting tool is inherently speculative, and that over-reliance on that tool would be foolhardy, and I don't think it should be emphasized to the degree that other people would like to emphasize on it. The reason I say that is if we had done this tool 18 months ago, it wouldn't have factored in the healthcare cost increases because they were unexpected. If the forecasting tool had existed in preparation for the budget of FY21 that started in mid-2020, it would not have been able to anticipate COVID-19. And it cannot incorporate things such as macroeconomic pressures that we have no direct control over, that raise the cost of services, the cost of contracts, cost of fuel, that affect the town's budget, whether that be because of something like a global pandemic and the shutdowns caused by them, or by wars of choice waged in other countries that affect the supply chain and lead to issues that we all have to deal with here on the ground. So I think that forecasting can be helpful in some regards, but should not be relied upon like the Farmer's Almanac for how our finances are going to look. I think that instead, what we have to do is be mindful that we are wading into different waters than we've ever been in historically, with new growth poised to slow down more significantly than it has. We know that new growth is going to slow down significantly over what it was over the last couple of decades when Red Brook and Pine Hills reached build-out. I don't think we're at the point of panic, which is why I didn't support the across-the-board 1% cut this past year, because I thought that was arbitrary. But I do think it is time to be mindful of when we take on new spending and new initiatives of the near-term sustainability of those initiatives, that we need to be focused on whether they really are absolutely necessary or whether they will have a significant return on investment that will either pay for themselves or justify that expense in a meaningful way, despite the fact that our financial options are starting to curtail themselves. So that is the approach that I plan to take, as opposed to focusing on a forecasting model, just looking instead at the realities as they come down the pike and making fair and balanced decisions and assessments as needed on an individual basis.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. Bill?
Yes, Roz, I know that you served on the FinCom for many years. I had to go before you, and you always kept me to a high standard. But you're bringing up a very important point, and it's why we started exploring this idea of budget oversight. And Deb has outlined what the Director of Finance is indicating to us in terms of looking at the new fiscal year, July 1st, kind of seeing these numbers come in. Then we get a little deeper into it in September, and they plan to give us a 5-year forecast. Mr. Canty has outlined some of the things that we have to pay attention to and not overly invest in. This is the gospel. It's obviously something we're going to have to be flexible with. But the thing that I want to call for is the reason I called for budget oversight was so that we would have moved the budget process to the front burner in a more transparent way. The other thing I'd like to add to this is that we have to start looking at the current budget year that we're in. We're in fiscal 26. We're going to start 27 on July 1st, but the actuaries that are coming in over a 12-month period of time can give us some insight into what we can expect in the next fiscal year. So we should be monitoring the fiscal year that we're currently in, because on July 1st, we're going to start another fiscal year, and as Deb has outlined, we're going to start to build a budget at 365 days out from July 1st. But this is a process that we want to bring to the front burner and make it part of our monthly presentations as the select board to the residents, so that if we have to make tough decisions, that we're all on the same learning curve. So that's the hope with budget oversight, something I was taught when I was on a committee presenting to FinCom. You had to really operate from the numbers and not from emotion.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. Let's see, I thought I saw a hand pop up over there. Would you like to, the woman in the yellow?
Another comment?
Yes, yeah. Just keep them coming.
Thank you. I want to thank you for having another on the road. I think that they're really great to.
Could you just say your name, just for
Sure.
the record?
Anna Malillo, 14 Crest. I am actually in Manamat, but I grew up in Cedarville. I would like to encourage the board to adopt a land acknowledgement for the Wampanoag tribe. That has been something that I have been encouraging for over a year. I am disappointed, to bring up the elephant in the room, with the recent vote of the development with Sheridan. I feel that Mr. Golden, Mr. Canty should have abstained, if not just for optics alone. I am very concerned about that development. It affects many people. I'm curious if there has been an investigation of possible Wampanoag artifacts, as was brought up by 71 Hedges, which was completely ignored. 71 Hedges is clear-cut, and nothing has been built there. It's heartbreaking to see that. This is our future. I grew up here, and this is not what I want to see. It is not what I want for my family that I am now raising here. Mr. Canty, you have talked about this being a bedroom community. If this continues, we will be a bedroom community. Indian Brook had portables when I was a kid, and they are still there. They are leaking. The classrooms are overrun. There is no support. We have built beautiful high schools, and yet Indian Brook is deserted. It is not treated well by the town, and South Plymouth needs another school, and there's no consideration for that. We have plenty of open space and open stores in Cedarville. We have businesses going out of business in Cedarville. We don't need more people. We need something else for our town, and we need something else for our future. Thank you.
Mr. Canty?
Sure. So, a few things in regards to the recent Landers property right of first refusal. So there was a conditional waiver of the right of first refusal that was negotiated in conjunction with our attorneys through a series of negotiations that also involved the attorneys interfacing and other board members, other than myself and Mr. Golden, interfacing with the proposed developer. The proposed developer is a friend of mine, which is why I did file a public disclosure statement to indicate that friendship existed. But when I was assessing whether I could perform my duties, which are to look out for the best interest of the town, I contemplated the entirety of the situation, including my relationship with Mr. Sheridan and how that has played out over time, and our ability to bifurcate and separate our friendship from our personal lives, our professional lives, and our occasional political differences as well. I reached a conclusion that I felt, and I do have experience in my professional life as well, I should add, assessing conflicts. I often have to represent people that I have known before in various capacities. I've represented people in my day job as a criminal defense attorney that I went to high school with or that I used to be friends with. And I have to make a determination in that setting. Well, my job here is not to be their former classmate or be their friend, but to be their attorney, which is very different. I need to be able to give them advice as their attorney with no other consideration. Sometimes I'm able to conclude that I can do that and carry on as their attorney. Sometimes, dependent upon what that relationship is or was, I reach a different conclusion. In this situation, I was able to reach a conclusion that I felt that I could look at the best interests of the town. I think when you read the executive session minutes of our discussions with the attorney, you will see that there was a significant amount of back and forth where the best interests of the town were contemplated and talked about. The advice of the attorney was to do many of the things that we ended up doing. The conditional waiver preserves a significant portion of the property at no expense to the town, at a time when, as a prior question alluded to, our town's finances are becoming increasingly limited, and we need to be creative with how we deploy our resources. I agree that 71 hedges is a significant problem. I would never have voted to support a deal like that, knowing what it turned into. I remember when it was presented to town meeting was for economic development in that area, but nobody at that time thought it would mean warehouses for no one, ice skating rinks for no one, and a lumber yard for no one, and instead be what it is there. This is not going to be like that. This is a residentially zoned area, not a commercial area. This is being done by a developer who, although he is a friend of mine, that was not the basis of my assessment. It was based on the track record of work that developer has in this community, of building working class homes, of building places that people can afford to live in this community. I ran twice on the concept of smart and balanced development, on balancing conservation and the need for commercial development where appropriate, or responsible residential development where appropriate. The types of houses that this developer has built and continues to build are the kind that people can actually afford. The 35 and unders that I was talking about in my campaign, that I feel we are pricing out of this community. That is my concern, is that the next generation of Plymouth is not going to be able to live in Plymouth, to stay in Plymouth. And that if we don't have more attainable housing options for all demographics, that is the future that we have created for our community. And I think that the record will show that when everything shakes out, that this deal was in the best interest of the community, this conditional waiver was in the best interest of the town, and I stand by the decision that I made. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I know it's really hard for people to understand how and why this decision was made, especially when you believe that there's another approach that we could have taken. I just really want to clarify, though, that our responsibility as the select board, when this was brought to us, when the right of first refusal was brought to us, We were not debating whether open space is valuable. Of course it is. That wasn't a decision that we needed to make. It is valuable. No one is arguing with that. We also were not responsible for making a choice between a developer and choosing the developer over the neighborhood's needs. That was not our responsibility. We were solely responsible for determining if the town should exercise its right of first refusal. In other words, was there a clear path forward for the town from a financial standpoint, from a legal standpoint, looking at the burden on taxpayers? Was there a path forward where the town could reasonably acquire that property? When we evaluated all of the facts in front of us, we determined that no, there was not. We could not afford to do that. We could not put that burden on the taxpayers. This was a very unusual situation. We actually had an alternative that offered a lot of community benefits. We don't get that opportunity very often. So we did have a choice that we don't usually have a choice in these kinds of situations, and we know that it's not the one that a lot of people would have wanted us to make, but I just wanted to clarify that our responsibility was to look at that right of first refusal and determine if there was a way that the town could acquire that property. And when all was said and done, the answer was no, and we made the decision that we felt was in the best interest of the town. With that said, the seller has a right to sell his property. He could sell it to whoever he wants. He could wait and sell it. He could, it's not up to us to determine when and how and who he sells the property to. So I just wanted to clarify that and just make sure that people understood that this was not an easy decision for any of us to make. With that, I'll turn it to Mr. Cohen.
Yes. I do think that we have a responsibility when we get a Chapter 61 notice. We have an awesome responsibility to meet that at the highest level. That means examining the opportunity for the town at the fullest extent in terms of for the highest and best purpose for the town. That's where I feel like we fell short. I was in the minority vote on this idea of preservation. I believe that the land warranted a serious consideration for preservation. And we do have a way of paying for this that doesn't raise taxes. We have on the books the Community Preservation Act. We passed it in the year 2002, and it's been successfully balancing between housing, historical, and open space, abilities for the town to respond to situations like this and not be burdening the taxpayer. It's about planning into the future. So we have this ability to respond to a crisis like this. We get a 61, we examine that 61, we see that it's worthwhile, and we go to town meeting and we say, use your CPA fund to buy this. So there was a way of buying it without, and there was a way of controlling the cost. Obviously, it was a $5 million acquisition. That's quite a bit of money. But there were ways of looking at it differently that I don't think we fully examined, and that my feeling is that we should have examined that, because I think that it was a major candidate for preservation. And I feel like that we could have explored that circumstance at the highest level. We did explore options if we didn't buy with a level of enthusiasm that I thought wasn't balanced towards the idea of preserving the land. Because I think that was a missed opportunity. Not often does 140 acres come along that you can preserve in a corridor of needed preservation. So, I hope in the future that, that the board takes on that responsibility of Chapter 61 and looking at the possibilities of preservation.
Okay, Mr. Quintal.
Yes, I also agree with Mr. Cohen that we should have took a little more time, and we weren't in the majority, and that's the way it goes. But I would have rather seen us go down another avenue. We had another group that was interested in it. We may have co-partnered with them or with any other groups. We don't know because we didn't get that far. It is what it is. I, too, am eager to see the executive session minutes, because you're going to see exactly how I felt about it. So that's all I'm going to say on it. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a lot of hands up. I saw Mr. Smith, you were actually jumping up to ask a question, so please, no, don't jump, walk.
Smith, Ellisville Road. Thank you very much, Selectmen, for coming all the way over the Pine Hills to see us. And But I do have to say, you are the highest level elected position in the nation's oldest town. This is an honor that's been bestowed upon you that you've sought, okay? And it's not well-paying, and it's a lot of long hours, and sometimes we seem ungrateful. But actually, I am disappointed, okay, when you say, sir, that you wrestled, okay, with the issue, and who do you represent, and can you represent them fairly? You represent us. It's the citizens that you represent. We only ask you look out for us. You know best. We trust you. We elected you. We wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Canty?
So, I understand that people who wanted a certain outcome are disappointed that I participated in a vote that went a way that they didn't like. When I was making the assessment, a further component of it was, I agree that no one should get my vote because they're my friend. But I don't think that people should lose my vote just because they're my friend either. And that the ability to assess the proposal in the totality and whether I would have voted for it regardless of my personal relationship with the individual was what guided the decision that I made. And I reached the conclusion that if Mr. Sheridan was not my friend, that based on his track record and based on the conditional waiver and the conditions therein, that we were able to secure at no cost for the town, that it is a decision that I would have reached and would have supported regardless of who was proposing it. And that alone is why I participated in the vote after filing the public disclosure form that I filed earlier in the process. I do believe that the outcome that we achieved does strike a balance between preservation at no cost to the community and providing necessary housing opportunities that this community has said that it wanted as part of the comprehensive plan process. The number one issue facing Plymouth is affordability, is the attainability of housing and the affordability of other aspects of life in this community. We have created a town where we are pricing the next generation, in particular, in my opinion, out of this community because of the historic decisions that we have made and the lack of leadership on those issues. It is very important to me that people like myself, who grew up in Plymouth and wanted to stay in Plymouth, be able to buy a house in Plymouth like I was, be able to work in Plymouth like I do. And that is becoming an increasingly rare opportunity in this town. This project will not solve it in and of itself because it's a huge town with a lot of people with a lot of needs, but it will move the needle in the right direction on that issue. And the opportunity to do that was important. And I felt it was important to participate in that for the reasons I've previously stated. And I do, again, stand by the decision that the conditional waiver was in the best interest of the town, and I stand by my vote.
Thank you. Ms. Holland, you were next.
I'm going to try and see if I can erase this so I don't have to.
Get to everybody.
Don't short my 3 minutes, please. Reclaim my minutes. Thank you. Okay, I want to triple down on thank you for coming. It makes such a difference. It's really hard to stand up and have you just be right there and not be able to respond to us. I'm sure it's hard on you too.
Hard for us too.
Exactly. I have here the MOU, which thanks to our president and dealings in Iran, I think we all know now what a memorandum of understanding is all about. This is the one that you have, that I have a copy of, and I actually have some concerns. I feel that the language, specifically the verbs, are very soft and vague, almost to the point of being meaningless. Such things as, he will pursue creating a walking trail. He will pursue a sidewalk between the properties of Hedges Pond Recreation Area. Pursue an easement. Consider maintaining a contiguous strip. Evaluate the feasibility of building a wastewater treatment facility. it's almost as though he's saying to you, yeah, I promise, I'll give it some thought. There's nothing here with any teeth, and there certainly doesn't seem to be anything here that can be evaluated before a shovel goes in the ground. Nothing really can be evaluated until the work is done. I feel it's impossible for you to give your approval for a go-ahead saying that the above conditions have been met. Perhaps Mr. Sheridan is going to submit a plan for future work, but without a bond and no way of putting teeth in or having leverage, what do we really have? I don't know Mr. Sheridan personally. We're assured by Mr. Canty that he's a good guy with a big heart, and he very well may be. But I would like to think that anyone coming before the town with business is treated fairly and also equally. My concern here is that nothing I see or read here is enforceable. And also, there is nothing at all, not a word, about housing. Thank you for commenting.
Mr. Canty.
So in terms of enforceability, it's going to be filed with the Registry of Deeds, and it'll be on record there. The document that you're holding in your hand, that will be filed with the Registry of Deeds. It will run with the land. It will be used in the permitting process, and that is the evaluation of the project and how it is going to be permitted through the planning board and or the ZBA as necessary. You'll see in there that those conditions apply through the issuance of a permit.
How can he give a permit if there's no bond or anything? He can say, yeah, I'll consider maintaining a contiguous strip. And so you say, oh, great, you have a permit for that. What if later, it's just not feasible? You know, it really sounded like a good idea, but I just can't do it. It sounded like a good idea to put in a sidewalk, but I find that I really cannot. It just doesn't make sense. We have no way of having any of this come to fruition. We have no guarantee, we have no bond. There's no legal.
You do. So the requirements to engage in that and take good faith efforts on those specific provisions are incorporated in the document. And then there are specific criteria earlier in the document about the amount of preservation land that has to be considered.
Yeah.
That is required.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a whole nother bailiwick.
So that runs with it, and that applies. And when they're making the permit, so the select board does not permit projects. The select board only assesses rights of first refusals.
This is your document.
Correct.
So this is what I'm having a problem with, Kevin.
But I'm telling you the process, Sybil. So
Right.
the process is, we just had to assess, as the chair said earlier, the issue of whether we were to waive the right of first refusal or exercise it.
Exactly.
And if we did waive it, what conditions could we apply to it? That is the end of the select board's involvement. It then moves on to the planning board and the ZBA, and that document that we generated as part of our good faith negotiations runs with it through the next step of that process. So the planning board members can look at that document and say, well, what did you do about this wastewater treatment plant? You were supposed to do X. What did you do? You were supposed to preserve this amount of land.
Yeah.
Show me the land that you've preserved.
Yeah,
You're supposed to do this. What did you do?
Supposed to. This, I feel like as a teacher, I hear this.
So,
You were
but
supposed to do this,
if
but it
you-
didn't happen. Then
No,
what?
because in order to get a permit, there would need to be measurable, either the specific land would have to be preserved, or there'd have to be measurable steps taken in regards to those other criteria that you mentioned having concerned about that process. We went over that with our attorney as part of drafting up. We did not generate that document. We talked about what we'd like to see in there, but the language was generated by our attorney that's appointed for this purpose, who works for and with the Wildlands Trust.
You know, okay, great. Would you agree with me that these words are not solid, that they're not enforceable?
They are enforceable because
Consider maintaining? I'll consider doing my homework? No.
you're cherry picking some of the.
No, I'm not.
some of them.
This is the whole memorandum.
There are.
This is all there is.
I am aware of what's in the document.
I'm sure you are.
And there are things in there that are very concrete and laid out. There are some that, because of where it is in the process, need to go through, like a wastewater treatment plant. That depends on density, it depends on the layout of the land there, what the impact of having that in that area would be. It may not be in the town's interest to have a wastewater treatment plant in that particular area.
Who will be deciding those things?
That will be part of the permitting process by the planning board and/or the ZBA, depending on the direction that the project
Yeah.
goes.
I don't know if you've seen this memorandum, but it's worth looking at.
And
Thank you,
also,
Kevin.
just keep in mind that at the time that we, right, even to this day, before the PNS is signed and the deal goes through, Mr. Sheridan has not been able to do any engineering on that property. He doesn't own the property yet. So this is why some of the language is a little bit softer than we would have liked. He intends to do all of those things, but we can't,
Good word? I mean, good faith? What is it? He intends. That's another soft word.
No, it's not.
It
It's
is.
not.
Because,
It is.
no, because if he, let's just say he doesn't, I mean, you have a bond, you have money in the bank. If Pontiff had to pay some money down in case there was a disaster, we wouldn't be in that position. So if plans change, life happens. If something changes, and this cannot be as we would like it to be, what kind of leverage does the town have once it gives up its right of first refusal? I know you're a lawyer, you can speak to that.
So what we had to decide, the right of first refusal itself only lasts within that 120-day window. But filing the conditional waiver and entering into the agreement and filing that so that it runs with the land protects us beyond that period with those criteria that will see it through into the permitting process. We don't have wide sweeping authorities to determine what a private landowner, either PA Landers or Matt Sheridan or any other entity, does with their land.
But
And
right now, it's our land, so we do have.
No, it's not our land.
We
It's
have the
PA
right to
it's-
make it our land. We have the right.
We have a right of first
refusal.
with money we don't have. And a source we don't, I disagree strongly that the CPA has $5 million
Yeah.
waiting around for this project. That's unrealistic, pie in the sky
Realistically, Kevin,
thinking.
there are other options that we never even really explored. But I
No,
don't
we
wanna
did
get into
explore
that.
those options. We did explore those options.
Mr. Chairman,
Those were
can I-
not viable in
is there
the
a chance I
situation
can
that we
speak?
were in.
At
I'm going
some
to sit
point?
down and let other people
okay,
speak. Thank you, Kevin.
I'm just going to call a little time
Yeah.
out here. We're having civil conversation here. Mr. Cohen.
Okay, so it was one of the reasons I didn't sign the document, because it's aspirational language. We gave up, we waived our first right with these conditions that are unenforceable conditions. They're just aspirational. So Mr. Canty's right, they'll have to go through a permitting process, and they'll have to meet those standards which in that permitting process. But what we have is something that is vague. Even to the extent of 40% of the land being preserved. There's about 15% of it's bogs and wetlands that you can't touch anyways. And then when you look at the side setbacks, the rear and the side setbacks from the abutting properties, you're almost at 20%. So it's not, and then with the topography of the site. So, 40% of preservation is a good thing, but let's not think that the 40% is an entire sacrifice by the 40% of what, I guess, is the question. But I just wanted to make it clear that I didn't support that document or sign that document because it had this language. And yes, the Community Preservation Act has approximately $9.7 million that has already gone to town meeting and asked for a borrowing authorization. We haven't borrowed all of that. We strategically borrow it as the project comes to fruition and the bills start to come in. There's some short-term borrowing, and then there's paying that off. We were almost at $14 million until the fall town meeting when we were able, in spring town meeting, when we were able to buy down the borrowing authorization that town meeting gave us. So we were at 14, and then we brought it down to 9.7. At one point, we went to town meeting and asked $4 million to put a roof on a museum in downtown Plymouth. I can't see why we wouldn't take the same level of consideration for $5 million for 140 acres in Cedarville. So that's why the Community Preservation Act was put into existence. So, every request before the CPA should be taken on a case-by-case basis. I'm not criticizing any one, but it just demonstrates how the CPA can respond to a circumstance that comes up and gives the town the opportunity to respond financially.
Did you want to say? Okay. Anyway, Pat.
Pat Adelman, Precinct 12. thank you very much for coming down here. It means a lot to the community. I hate to keep beating the drum, but this is about the Landis property, and the word is out that it's going to be zoned for a 40Y, and I'm wondering if that will be an article for fall town meeting or spring town meeting. And because 40Y, developers can develop as a right, what does that do to the memorandum of understanding?
Mr. Canty.
So I know there's speculation that it might go a 40Y route, but that is that is very much speculative at this point, and I would be very surprised if it went that route, to be honest. 40Y is a relatively new zoning bylaw that's passed by the state that, to my knowledge, has not been utilized anywhere within the Commonwealth so far. In order to rezone the land, it would, under a 40Y, Ms. Adelman, it would have to go through a town meeting article process. So town meeting would weigh in on that if and when that did occur. So that would be a public process as well. The criteria of the memorandum that would be recorded would still run with the land and still be part of the permitting process, as previously said, but I just do not believe that there will be a 40Y there. I would be stunned if it went that particular route. So I know that I have heard other people speculate about that as well, but I do not believe that will be the path. Instead, what the town sought to do here was to balance our ability, our limited scope to interface with it, and the fact that this project, the important thing to remember, this was a project where we had someone that was willing to work with us to preserve land at no cost. We are going to continue to see Chapter 61 land come out of Chapter 61 status, and a lot of it is going to be in South Plymouth. When the Atlantic Country Club was a project a year earlier at $19 million, where that person was saying, oh, don't worry, we're not building a 40B development. We didn't believe them, because why would they be paying $19 million for 170-something acres if they weren't going to be building the high density of a 40B? So that was clearly a developer that we could not trust and could not put our faith in. The one up in North Plymouth, the Pulte development, where we tried working on a friendly 40B with them at one point, and they walked away from the table from us and decided to go with a hostile 40B instead. That's something worth fighting. But we don't have the resources to fight absolutely all of them at this point. And when we have an opportunity to achieve meaningful preservation at no cost and provide an attainable housing need as opposed to a sand pit, we think that that is a worthwhile effort. And that was the thinking on this particular parcel, taking in the totality of the circumstances and the fact that more 61 land is going to come online, much of it down in this area and in other areas of South Plymouth.
Can you explain what a 40Y is?
A 40Y is a development proposal for high-density housing. It's 40Y, not 40B, but it's a related, it's new. I don't really know what one looks like because, as I said, I don't think any exist yet. But you can't, it was part of the governor's housing initiative over the last year or so. And it's a new high-density type of development that we get an entity that does it gets some state money to incentivize the use of it in that particular purpose, because the state is trying to increase housing stock. But I just don't think it would be a good fit for this particular area or this particular parcel.
And we'd have to change our zoning bylaws.
Yeah, you can't just, it has to go through a zoning process. It's not like 40B and it overrides local zoning. It requires a town meeting action in order to undertake it.
Yeah. I think what we're hearing here tonight is just how complex this decision was for us. There were just so many, What we're hearing is that how complex this decision was. There was so many different factors that we had to weigh. And as I said at the beginning of our discussion, this was not easy for any of us. This was not a slam dunk. It took months of conversation and discussion back and forth with lawyers in trying to figure out the best possible outcome for the town. And I'll be the first to admit that it's not a perfect solution, but it's the best solution that we could come up with at the time, given the information that we had and the limited financial resources that we have as a town. Okay. Yes.
Jerry
pink shirt.
Williams.
Jerry. Sorry, Jerry. I didn't recognize you with your hair pulled back like that.
Oh, sorry. I'm curious why you had to make that decision in the middle of June, when you had until the middle of August to give up your right of first refusal. And there was another group that offered to take, if you would convey it to them, to work at trying to find partners to buy the land and perhaps conserve people we would trust to buy the land and really conserve it and maybe develop some portions, but we know what they would develop would be the already disturbed land. I don't quite see why we had to rush to make this, give up our refusal of first, our right of first refusal, and why we didn't let the land organization have some time to explore what they might be able to do.
You want to take a first shot at that?
Yes. So that's a few different topics, but I can handle them each in turn. So first, in regards to the Community Land and Water Coalition, which is what was alluded to as the other entity. So that entity approached the town saying they would like to see the right assigned to them, but they didn't provide any financial information that they could deliver on that. In conferencing with our attorney about the assignment of the right of first refusal, he advised us that you wouldn't want to hand it to any group that you weren't confident could go forward and exercise that actual right of first refusal. Because once you assign it, the horse has left the barn and there's nothing you can do about it. So he said that he would be very cautious about us doing that. So then we inquired and asked for some financial information that they didn't preliminarily provide to us. We had given them a week to do that. They gave back that information to us 3 days later saying, we don't have the money right now, but we would essentially fundraise if we were given this opportunity. So based on the prior advice we had received from our attorney on that very subject, that was not really, in our opinion, a viable opportunity. In terms of it being a rush and it happening in June, first of all, I would say it wasn't a rush. It originally started in, I think the original purchase and sale came through on or about March 18th. The first purchase and sale was viewed as not being a bona fide offer and was sent back to correct those underlying issues in consultation with our attorney about the deficiencies there. That then restarted that clock and we looked at it. The second P&S was in a different position, and that's when we had an opportunity to assess more meaningfully what we would want to do. Do we want to pursue some type of a purchase, and if so, where would that money come from? The CPC right now, since that's been used as a potential funding source, they're bringing in about $4.4 million a year total. So this would be more than an entire year of their revenue, and that's with no historic preservation, no affordable housing money for any other project or recreation or other open space concerns. So that would be a very significant burden on the CPC for this specific purpose. And the time frame didn't really work out either. You mentioned June versus the right of first refusal expiring not until on or about August 15th. But those that have been town meeting members for a while, do you remember when the town was interested in buying 46 Sandwich Road? This is back in like 2022. We had a special town meeting in the middle of the summer in June. It was called and held about 30 days after it was called, and that land purchase did not go through. It took that 30-day period, which was a very significant rush. I was the chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee at that time, and it took over the front end of my summer preparing for that particular town meeting, because it was just getting all the logistics in, getting all of the precinct caucuses together, getting the book together. There's a lot of admin that goes into having a town meeting, and you really need it. I would say that 30 days was not enough, because obviously the principal reason we were there was not successful. So you probably realistically, to get something like that accomplished and get enough people informed, need at least like 45 days before your deadline. You also have a 10-day after town meeting concludes and dissolves. It's not for 10 days after that that the money can be expended. So then you're losing between 40 and 55 days off that August 15th just to accommodate for a town meeting action and activity. So if you're talking August 15th, that brings you to on or about July, the beginning of July, and obviously a lot of people in the first week of July are busy focusing on some other things. So realistically, we would have had to have made a decision within a week or two of when we did make it as a deadline anyways. Do we want to go with some type of a purchase with town meeting action, or did we want to go with a conditional waiver, or we could have just done a flat waiver, which we did not do. But what we were able to provide was mutual benefits, and what we had to negotiate with on our side was time. We could move the time frame up a little bit on the other party's end, and what we would get was this conditional waiver, not an outright waiver, that they would be bound to going forward through the permitting process. So that was the determination that we made was the best outcome and the best balance of those competing interests in that regard. But this was a rigorous process that involved multiple rounds of negotiations at the executive sessions, as well as Ms. Iaquinta, Mr. Cohen, meeting with Mr. Sheridan and his attorney to go over the details of that conditional waiver and what criteria we could put in there, and multiple back and forths on that after that meeting as well. So this was something that we took weeks and weeks of our time on, if you were paying attention, as I'm sure you were, to our executive session agendas and how often it was on there for that period of time. And I feel that we did do a significant amount of due diligence in that regard.
The one thing I would add to what Mr. Canty said as it relates to the offer from the Community Land and Water Coalition to accept our right of first refusal is just an analogy that occurred to me as we were considering what they had sent us for information. It was almost as if, your house is on, suppose your house is on the market and a buyer comes to you and says, I'd take your house off the market. I can't tell you how I'm going to fund it. I can't tell you any of the details of the transaction until the day of the closing. I don't think many of us would think that that was a really prudent way to approach a transaction, especially one with the value of the land that we're talking about here. The other thing that I would add is that even if we had transferred our right of first refusal to this group or to any group, that does not mean that the seller of the land is going to want to sell to them, is going to want to negotiate with them. We can't control that. The seller has the right to sell the land to whoever he or she wants to sell it to. So this, again, again to echo what Mr. Canty said, these were just more of the growing web of details and information that we considered when we made this decision. So for us, we looked at it as, we've got a really good opportunity here to preserve almost half the land and to get some needed housing, and we don't know what will happen if we let go of this right of first refusal. So that was a little bit of our thinking as well. Mr. Cohen.
In 2005, we had a special town meeting and we purchased the Center Hill Preserve. So we were able to do that efficiently 21 years ago. Don't know why we can't still do that. This form of government still works. You can have a town meeting and you can bring this question to town meeting efficiently to ask this question. The article did pass at town meeting. And then we had time for the closing, and we went out and we wrote a grant. We got together with a number of nonprofit environmental groups in southeastern Massachusetts, and we applied to the United States government, and we were awarded a $2.5 million grant to help cut the cost in half with the federal government. So there are ways to find money to help leverage these activities, and that's why Chapter 61 gives us 90 days from the time that we have relinquished this temporary condition on May 5th to taking us to August 15th. But if we had August 15th to make a decision to buy this, and if we had transferred to someone else, you can transfer with the understanding that they're going to have to save 100% of the land. There are things that you could say to them in terms of to incentivize the town to do something like this with another partner. This is about creating a partner that would take up this question on August 15th. And if they decided to go forward and sign the purchase and sales, which was a pretty good purchase and sales because it was only a $2,500 deposit on the $5 million transaction. So that's a risk that someone should take. And then you have 18 months to find the money, and you could go back to town meeting. The warrant doesn't close until August 11th, so you could put it on the warrant, let town meeting decide whether or not to buy it. So there were things that we could have done, and there's other financial partners, just not this one coalition, the Water and Landing Coalition. There are other grants, federal and state grants, and other environmental organizations in the area that we could have written grants. I just think there was a possibility for conservation. We should have taken the time to explore this to the fullest extent. The reference of a real estate transaction is kind of interesting. You don't want to take your house off the market, so you take it off contingent on getting a finance approval letter, and you give the person 30, 60 days to show up with that commitment letter. So we only gave this group only 7 days to come up with the financial information. I would have preferred that we gave them more time, and we took more time looking at our options. We had the time. That's what 61 gives us. I felt like we jumped out of it too quick.
Okay, let's have another question. How about you?
Hi there, my name is Caleb Stolowski. I live at 4 Buckskin Path. So, don't mean to offend anybody, but raise your hand if you're under the age of 30. Anyone? 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 Yeah! You look great. Weren't we all? So, essentially, this land represents our future, where we're thinking of where Plymouth will go through the next generations. And it's not just this land agreement. It's 71 Hedges Pond. It's me having to be back here again after last year, talking to Mr. Landers. It's really, like, I really wanted to get involved in local government recently because I was brought home to a house not like a mile down the road here. My parents came here, climbed that hill, looked out to the sea, and saw their home. And they thought that that was going to be their life for the rest of their life and for their children's lives. But money need to make money. What I would ask is that you consider conservation and environmental justice as a cost add to the town. We have scientific evidence. We have projects that have gone through that have caused revenue because of the environmental focus, like Whale Sense with Captain John's boats. That's been an incredible value add. Young people are also very interested in nature and the world still existing when we reach the, honored age of 80, 90, 100. I want to reach that, and I want to have clean water to drink when I'm 80 years old. And I want you guys to promise that. Clean water for me and my kids and my neighbors and my friends. Are there protections in place for our sole source aquifer? We know that in nations across the pond, all around the world, they are now running out of their clean, potable drinking water supply. And they are fighting because of it. Civil wars are breaking out because people cannot consistently access clean drinking water. That being said, our sole source aquifer is filtered by that cap of sand and land on top of it. And the trees, yep, definitely. So just consider how much you would pay to keep people here who will take care of you when you are old.
Okay. Let's see, who, have you spoken?
No, she has.
No, okay.
Not sure how I'm going to follow that. Haven't seen you since you were a preschooler. That's pretty funny. Hi, Lauren Malillo. I am Precinct 8 Town Meeting Rep, and I have been very concerned about my constituents here in Precinct 8, because this is certainly going to be affecting them. They are here, they will speak on their own behalf, but I need to ask about affordable housing. Now, I have heard time and again about the need for affordable housing. I have 5 children. They all live in Plymouth. 2 of them own, 2 of them rent, 1 of them lives at home. Now, when I lived here as a young person, we had neighborhoods. We now have Airbnb locations. Half of my street is Airbnb. My mother's neighborhood is Airbnb. That's what we need to be focused on, not creating more housing, but somehow incentivizing year-round housing. We have these houses built and they sit vacant for 10 months out of the year. The affordable housing projects that have been approved, for instance, the millions and millions of dollars that we've thrown at Red Brook and have seen nothing come from, the money that was promised, or the affordable housing that was promised from Pasture Way, where an entire neighborhood is now having a runway of new residents coming up through a quiet dead-end street. They have now pulled their affordable housing. I want to know, when you say affordable housing, what you mean by affordable housing and how that affordable housing is guaranteed. Because right now, I see that we are giving money and giving developers a lot of leeway, and they are not giving back to our community.
Kids and tear tax like New York City.
Thank you for that question. I'll kick things off here and then have my colleagues join in. There are 2 definitions of affordable housing. One is the legal definition, which the state has said is 80% of median income, excuse me, for the 40B developments. That it's affordable if you are at the 80% of median income. And they base that on the Boston metropolitan area, not on Plymouth. So Plymouth's salaries and income obviously is much, much lower than that. So right off the bat, that is not affordable. But then there is the kind of affordable that we all want in Plymouth, and that is what people can truly afford, such as the starter home development. I'm going to bring up what's proposed for the Landers property project. Those are truly starter homes that are in the $450,000 to $500,000 range.
That's not a starter.
Well, it's compared to double that, it's much more manageable. So we are truly working towards being out from underneath the thumb of 40B and to reach our 10% safe harbor level as quickly as possible so that we can start working with developers to get the kinds of affordable housing that we truly need. So now I'll let my colleagues, Mr. Canty.
So I would define the criteria slightly differently, though similarly. So I view them as there's affordable with 2 sub-definitions, and then there's attainable housing. So I think affordable, there's legally affordable, which under the state definition is 80% area median income. But we're lumped into the same census-designated place as places like Cambridge, Braintree, Boston, when we talk about that. So in reality, although it's legally affordable, area median income at 80% is actually not generally very affordable. Often it's at or about market rate in the area. There is a benefit to having it because it does protect us from 40B hostile developments that would come in and override local zoning if we can get 10% of our subsidized housing inventory to be at least 80%. So it's not useless, but it doesn't meaningfully move the needle in terms of people that actually require affordable housing. What I would like to see the town do is focus on getting into 10% safe harbor at 80%, and then once we are ahead of our 20, and it resets, your 10% resets every census that comes out. So we're currently working on the 2020 census numbers. We want to get ahead of the 10% requirement for the 2032 census. If and when we're able to do that, then we should start focusing on lowering the AMI below 80 to like 60%, which would actually be more truly, as I would call it, truly affordable for people in this area. It's better than legally affordable, but it's actually meaningfully affordable for the people that live here. I think that would be a tremendous benefit, but that's part of a medium and long-term strategy. Attainable housing is the type of housing that we're likely to see in this area that we're talking about at the Landers. That is that $400,000 to $500,000 range. I agree that it is not what we would love to see in the community. When I bought my house, which was built in 1979, I bought it in 2016. It was $350,000. It's now valued over $600,000. And although I have made some updates to it, the biggest thing that's changed is the calendar. And it's that explosion in house prices that happened after the pandemic, the scarcity that we're seeing that's driving up those costs. And I remember when I was on the Advisory and Finance Committee prior to the pandemic, the area median house price for a home was like $350,000 to $380,000 for many years, and then it exploded after the pandemic. So now $400,000 to $500,000 is actually much better than market rate in the community. That is unfortunate that we're shooting at that level as opposed to a lower level that more people could afford. But this is at least addressing it in a meaningful way, because there's a huge donut hole between people that qualify for affordable housing and people that can buy market rate homes, which are $750,000 or more in this community. And that, I think, that donut hole that so many people live in, so many of our young people live in, that is, I think, is the existential threat to Plymouth's future that I'm trying to address with my work.
Mr. Cohen?
That's a helpful definition and description of the situation when it comes to what is affordable, what is really affordable. But it does lie with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in the general court. Your state delegation, your state senate, your state house is controlling these numbers. They need to be addressed to create real affordability in terms of people's incomes, because there are a great many people in this market that are priced out of it, that just can't buy. And, the analysis of what happened during the pandemic, after the pandemic, Mr. Canty's explanation of, the market trends, that's accurate. But at the same time, you have a demographic of individuals that are unable to buy, and it's affecting the real estate market because you have very low income, very low inventory of possible properties, and people struggling with the cost of borrowing. So it's something that we need to address on a state level. So the next time you see your state rep or your state senator, ask what they're doing to modernize these things. The area mean income, the AMI, in which Mr. Canty references, we have to start on a state level dropping that to be more sensitive to the markets that we're in. So that's one step that the state delegation could probably entertain in a legislative initiative to make things more affordable outside the city of Boston.
And I would just add that at next week's Select Board meeting on June 30th, we will be discussing our 10% affordable housing goal strategy. So if you want to tune in for that. Another question. Mr. Lydon?
Steve Lydon, Precinct 17. I'd like to know if the man property, is that coming out of Chapter 61? And if it is, what do you think our chances are for CPC to be able to afford to buy that? I know it's going all for preservation, and I think that's a great idea, but is it obtainable to be able to buy that? And also, I have talked to Michelle Badger and, Dylan Fernandez about the AMI and how it's, if you look at some of these 40Bs have gone up, they're $28 over $3,000 a month. That's not affordable. And, I'd like to see workforce housing, which I think is the housing that we really need, is for people like nurses, police, or and those professions are able to afford these houses. I know my home, I hate to say this, but I bought it back in the 70s. It was $42,000. Wow. Now it's like over close to 600, 700,000. I know today I couldn't afford that. So, but I'd like to know where the 71, where the man property is, and if it's out of Chapter 61 yet, or what's the process going on with that? Thank you.
Mr. Cohen?
Are you referring, Mr. Lydon, the man property on the Plymouth-Bourne line?
Yes.
That's gone under agreement with the Buzzards Bay Coalition in coordination with numerous conservation groups working with the coalition over a number of years, getting ready for that eventual possible listing of a property. But it looks like at fall town meeting, most likely at fall town meeting, the town will be looking at participating in that acquisition through their CPA fund.
Does they have to come out of Chapter 61?
I believe it's. I'm not sure of the status of 61 on the man property, but it was listed. And it's currently under agreement with the Buzzards Bay Coalition.
There was a gentleman back here. Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is Patrick Downey. I live in Ellisville. And I wanted to talk also about the Hedges Pond situation. I'm new to the area. I've been following this. When I first moved here, was the whole situation with 71 Hedges, and I followed it, and that's why I got involved with this. As I've been tracking this from the whole thing, there's several questions that I have as to how your process works and how it all takes place. First off, why did this all have to be in secret? Why was this all behind closed doors? I mean, I understand, I've worked with contracts my entire life. It's a land contract. There's nothing in here that's so confidential that we can't hear about it. Why wasn't there public comment along the way? And we talked about alternatives. Why did we make this decision? We just talked about that? I don't buy that answer. We could have let the Community Land and Water Trust have at least 30 days to get the money. That's an alternative. It's this board's responsibility to evaluate the alternatives and act on the best alternative. That is one of the best alternatives. We keep saying, well, they might not sell it. Well, that's a good alternative too. Let's go another year with it fallow. But, I think that, if I'm going through this process and I want another big question about how this all transpired, where did we come up with $5 million? This board certified that as a bona fide offer. Was there a fair market value evaluation done? If not, why not? We've plenty of time. What is, so as we think about that, you determined it was bona fide. How? Is it too much? Is it too little? If it's worth more than $5 million, which you don't know, why wouldn't we purchase it? If it's worth more than $5 million, we're buying it for $5 million. Makes perfect sense. Or again, let's seal it, Community Land and Water Trust. How about, let's talk about sand mining. Make no mistake, this is about the sand. That area has the best sand in the world. $71 a square foot. It's been mapped. People are coveting it. Everybody's falling over for years to get this sand. The incidental sand removal associated with this, to the letter of the law, is worth between $5 and $10 million. And Landers has a part in cleaning it. Well, was that evaluated? What is this situation in the sand lining? So let's make most, and then incidental? What did we learn from 71 Hedges? Anything? Incidental, so you just made a decision to let this happen again. How can that be? This is a rare ecosystem. I live a mile downstream. Excuse me, may I have at least one more minute? I have a well. You're going to put 200 residential houses in here? What does that do to my well? Did you evaluate it? You just made the decision. Hundreds of acres. Come on. Where's your fiduciary responsibility to us, the citizens? So, I think, and again, what's the justification? If you want to make the decision to protect us, and we talk about low-income housing, great, it makes for a great filibuster. It makes for a great speeches. This decision is not about low-income housing because it's not binding in any agreements. We're just talking about that. I have a degree in, I have a certificate in decision analysis. This is not part of the decision. It's an ad hominem logical fallacy to keep bringing it up again and again. So at the bottom line, I know I'm out of time. So where are we? You guys are the ultimate authority. Your final decision. We're going to file a complaint with the State Ethics Board, but now we're screwed. So those are my comments, and I thank you for your attention.
Did you want to address? Yes. Go ahead, Mr.
Yep.
Kennedy.
So there was a few different topics, but I'll try and hit on those. So first of all, the use of executive session. So it was alluded earlier as part of the financial question that we received. Why have we had an executive session about that? Well, we can't have executive sessions on just anything. You can only have executive sessions on certain things. And the purpose of an executive session is protect the interests of the town. Because, and they usually tend to deal with some interest in a negotiation. Because if you were negotiating with another party, and you get to negotiate with that other party behind closed doors with your attorney or your real estate agent or whatever your advisor team is, but then you guys can turn on PAC TV and watch the negotiations of the other side playing out on cable television, then you watching the cable broadcast are at a distinct advantage in that negotiation. So executive session is designed to protect the interest of the town in having the negotiations and the conversations with the attorney and staff in assessing an interest in real estate, which is what this was, a right of first refusal interest in real estate, to protect the town's interest in that and protect the secrecy against not the residents of the community, but for the purposes of the integrity of the negotiations themselves, that we could have a discussion about our strategy and our best interests and then present what we wanted to present to the other side outside of that. We followed the advice of our attorney and staff as to the determinations that were made in that particular executive session. As to the Community Land and Water Coalition's offer again, I just want to reiterate that if we had assigned this to the Community Land and Water Coalition, who is currently in active litigation against the Landers company, what the seller can choose to just take it off the market, remove it from chapter status, and then sell it for market rate value once the right of first refusal has been extinguished after paying a measly amount of back taxes to the community. So we did not have some safeguard that was undischargeable. We had to work within the parameters. Chapter 61 is not particularly favorable to municipalities. You get minimal benefits while it's in Chapter 61 status. You get significant in terms of forestry, agriculture, or recreation. You get, as a property owner, you get to pay a lot less taxes. But then the town only gets up to 5 years of back taxes and gets a relatively short right of first refusal window that they have no pre-notice that it's coming before the 120 days starts, which puts us at a significant disadvantage. I don't really particularly care for the mechanics of Chapter 61. In talking about the largest undeveloped parcel in the community, the Holtec parcel, that's why we negotiated an expanded right of first refusal there of 270 days, so that we had more time because of the cost that we anticipated of that particular purchase and the significant value to the environment of that particular area. But we don't have 270 days with all these others. We have a much more limited window. So we anticipated that based on the antagonistic relationship between Community Land and Water Coalition, as well as the financial considerations that we heard about earlier, that that was not a viable alternative regardless of whether they had the money or not. And then incidental sand mining, I know that that is a part of significant discussion. We talked about that in the executive sessions as well. 71 Hedges was permitted with a different building inspector with a very different definition of the word incidental. The town is currently undergoing an earth removal bylaw review committee process to assess that particular bylaw and how it is currently being applied, as well as how to potentially change it in the future. But at a minimum, we have a very different building inspector now with a very different definition of incidental than his predecessor did. And so you will not see, regardless of what the owner of this particular parcel would like to see happen, you will not see incidental defined in the same very broad, and I agree, egregious way that it was applied on 71 Hedges to this particular parcel. So that is not going to happen here. I agree that that is a problem there. I don't care for what's happening there. But that parcel, despite its geography, that is the extent of and the fact that they were both at one time owned by Skip Landers, that is where the similarities cease. You are not going to see a similar situation play out here.
Okay, Mr. Cohen.
Yes, closed doors. It's a concern that I have in terms of how we use Chapter 61. It's okay when you're discussing an interest in real estate and negotiating that interest in real estate, but it was a bona fide offer that the board felt that at $5 million, I think that when you come across a bona fide offer, the negotiation is pretty set in the terms are pretty clear. So I'm nervous about the idea of how we use executive session in terms of the transparency of the discussion that we have to have about possibly acquiring something. That's why I have called for, and I'll continue to call for it tonight, that this board needs to have a presentation by staff about executive session, when it's used, how it's used. Because yes, at some point in time, you have to go into executive session to protect the quality of negotiation. But at the same time, you don't want to overuse that event. So I feel like there were alternatives. We've talked about them continuously tonight. That was my feeling, that we could have looked at and explored other alternatives to purchase the property, not just the Land and Water Coalition, but the other grants that are available, state and federal, and other organizations in southeastern Massachusetts. We had the time. That was something that I felt was important. But it's important to note that the town does have a way of responding in a situation in a timely manner to deal with something like this. They have the Community Preservation Act. It's already in place. It's not going to raise taxes if we use it for the purpose in which we've set aside these monies for housing, historical, and open space. So I feel like there was a way of doing this. There were alternatives, and we have to revisit how we use closed-door sessions.
Okay. Mr. Cohen, I'm glad you brought up the executive session. Just a little PSA here. We are working with legal counsel to find a date that works to have that discussion, and it should be shortly. It should be coming up very soon. Okay, orange sweater.
Orange sweater is actually Carol Beggs, 21 Buckskin Path. First of all, a couple of things. I don't know how you can say the situation of 71 Hedges won't happen here if it depends upon an individual building inspector. What happens when this guy leaves? Somebody else just gets to make the decision? We get the other guy back who did do an egregious decision? It's based on an individual. I don't find that reassuring at all, and I don't know how you can say that it won't happen. You can't. I am glad that we are addressing somehow earth removal so that we cannot be relying on an individual, but that is very cold comfort at this point. Second, I guess, coming from an IT background, I'd just like to define what the situation is. Is this a done deal? Do we have any legal recourse for the town giving up the right of first refusal? So I will ask back here for anybody that knows. I heard something about bringing an ethics complaint. Do we have any options? Or is all this conversation just to let you know we're unhappy with you and there's nothing we can do about it? And I would ask Mr. Cohane about that.
Well,
I mean, it's.
Through the chair.
Yeah, no, we have signed our waiver, and it's been recorded, so it is a done deal.
So basically, everything that we've done here tonight doesn't make any difference.
No.
It's not that it doesn't make a difference, no, absolutely not.
How does it make a difference?
Because we wanted to hear from the community what you're.
It's not going to change anything, is it?
No, it's not.
Other than waiting and voting everybody out that was part of this, there's nothing we can change about this specific situation, is what you're saying.
There's nothing that can be changed about this specific situation.
Is the purchase complete?
The purchase will happen according to the terms of the purchase and sale agreement. We have nothing.
So they have not closed
We have
on
nothing
this.
to do with the purchase.
I
All we
understand that,
did
but you
was
know more
sign.
than I do. Has the purchase closed?
It has not.
Okay. That's it. That's all I got.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah.
Mr. Canty?
So I agree that one of the reasons that the town was interested in reviewing the earth removal bylaw process was the concern over the historically flexible definition of incidental as it's been applied by different people. I did say that under the current situation, this is not going to happen again, but that is while we are waiting for the review process to be completed by the Earth Removal Bylaw Committee. They will assess what recommendations that committee will bring for possible revisions to that bylaw to town meeting. And that may include a different process for that. It's unclear. That is the work of that committee's task and charge, and we will see the results of that when it completes. But I just wanted to assure people that, at a minimum, what happened at 71 Hedges will not happen here while we're waiting for that work of that Earth Removal Bylaw Committee to conclude, because the two individuals, the prior inspector and this one, have very different philosophies, and this inspector is the inspector that will be reviewing this permit. Yes, I can.
He could walk in front of a bus.
Okay.
I hope he doesn't, but he could.
Okay.
You cannot guarantee.
Let's get another comment in here. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I looked at a couple of other proposals that have come along, and this concept of incidental, I mean, Patrick brought it up and a few others. I actually looked the word up. Incidental, occurring or likely to occur as an unpredictable or minor accompaniment, which is as vague as the word itself. I'm sorry, my name is Bill Lawrence. I'm commonly known as Sybil's husband, usually, and I'm very proud of that. There's not a word in that MOU that would stand up in a court. It's so vague. I mean, we've learned one thing since Watergate, that we have to be a lot more definitive and careful about what we agree to do. And I'm sitting here and I realize many times I've served the public in the city of New York, I have never stood before a board elected that I voted for every single one in front of me. And I take a lot of pride in that, because I took time to watch and listen and look. And I think the thing that bothers me is the flack that you're taking on this issue and the issues that you just brought up, and 71. The integrity of this board has been threatened, and I feel really bad about that, because it's an important body that we all need to know that we can count on it and being fair and open. And yes, there's positive sides. You've made many points. Bill makes points. I understood that another vote was taken where could have been possible, where it could have been reconsidered in light of. Okay, I'll let that go. Either way, nothing's happening. And I spent a lot of time developing a curriculum on ethics. In graduate school, I taught. And since Watergate, we have to be a lot more careful about our public sector obligations. And public service is a very important thing, and it's a very glorious thing to be part of. But when I first heard of the incidents with the potential conflict, having signed that is a good thing. It lets it be known, but it doesn't absolve you from not being ethical. And I don't know whether the parties that are involved with this could or could not look at things objectively. There's no way I can judge that. But it smelled bad to me when I first heard it. And then when I began to see what happened to the Independent and talking to a few others, looking at the history of people involved, I think a little more discretion should have been taken, because the integrity of this board is very important to all of us here, and we want to feel that we have that integrity. And I tried to think about how it's like. We always remember our first kiss. It's very important, but it grows less important as we go through time, but we never forget it. And it's going to be very hard, however this shakes out, it's going to be very hard for me to forget. And I'm always going to be on guard. Am I being protected here? Are my fellow homeowners being protected? I just don't know. And that's what bothers me. Because with ethical issues, you have to say, well, could it be or couldn't it be? But why would professional people get themselves into the position in the first place? Avoid it. Find someone else. Work it out a different way. But don't allow yourself to be compromised. As I said, I voted for every one of you, and I feel proud of that. It's everyone has commented on how we're glad that you came here, and I looked for another metaphor, and I kept thinking of Muhammad coming to the mountain, and you did, but it's our mountain. This mountain is ours, and we have to protect it, and we need to know that you're there. You could have given more time to face these options. You could have looked to see what other options Landers had to see whether or not they would be exercisable. Talk to the man, find out what he wants. But it just feels a bad taste. And then as it developed more, it wasn't just the smell, it began to taste bad too. And I don't like that, and I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go again. Yeah, it's okay. So I understand the concerns, but you know, Mr. Golden and I don't agree on a lot these days. But we both filed these disclosure forms because we wanted to be on the up and up and make everyone aware that Mr. Sheridan was separately friends with each of us. So we did that to maintain the integrity of the board and the process. We then excuse me, Mr. Lauren.
Could you, when someone is, okay.
You're right.
When someone is speaking, yes, we listen. Thank you.
So that was done with an eye towards the process. And I can't speak to the individual assessments that Mr. Golden made, but I would imagine they would be similar in the sense of, as it says in the form and as it says in the training that we're required to take in regards to the conflict of interest. A conflict of interest is defined as a financial interest of yourself or an immediate family member, or if you have a financial stake in the matter itself. And that was not applicable here, but we did understand that there could be the appearance of undue influence, which is why we filed those disclosures to air them out and explain how we individually felt we could still proceed and keep our core responsibilities, which is, and always is, assessing the best interest of the town in the process, which I know for a fact that was always at the center of my thought-making, my decision-making process, and the center of my thoughts in assessing this. As I said earlier, Mr. Sheridan should not have gained my vote because he was my friend, but he also shouldn't have lost my vote simply because he was my friend. And it was about whether or not It was about whether or not I would have made this decision regardless of whether I knew the developer or not. And it was a decision that I would have made regardless of that. The best interest of the town was served by the conditional waiver, and I stand by my vote.
We have, Mr. Golden is online now and has raised his hand, so I'm going to give Mr. Golden an opportunity to speak since he is joining us for the first time tonight. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Folks, I do apologize for not being there in person tonight. We had a death in the family and actually had some medical emergencies that we had to deal with today as well. So I apologize for not being there. I just wanted to let folks know that I am on the call now. I'm listening intently to the discussion. I think that Mr. Canty's summary of our decision to inform the community of the nature of our personal relationship with Mr. Sheridan was correct. I just want to let folks know that I'm here and I'm listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen.
I think each board member has the obligation to look into themselves and ask themselves the question when they feel they come across a moment of a conflict. Obviously, doing the due diligence in terms of engaging the state in declaring this. But as I said before, and I'll say many times, I think it's very important that we're individuals on this board. We have to think inward to ourselves of how we're going to present ourselves to the residents, but we share this board with 4 other people. And that's another thing you have to keep in mind, because if you leave the board exposed to this level of criticism, the board, or questions, or a feeling of disappointment, it spreads to the entire board, the town, and our community. So it's something that I take very seriously when you look at that question. I think each board member has to look into themselves to see that, but I think that staying away looking at the air of impropriety, the optics of a situation like something like this, where there was a functioning board that could make the decision without your input, it's something that should be seriously considered. But again, it's an individual decision each board has to make, but there is something that's larger than the individual. It's the responsibility of the other 4 members on this board, the municipality itself, and everyone who resides in it.
There's no higher calling than public service.
Could you come to the mic if you want to speak? Do you want to speak again? You can come to the mic.
Hi. Michelle Peterson, 67 Great Woods Road. The plans that were made are going to affect the development that I live in, and maybe some other people who live here too. Madam Iaquinta, you said that the developer had open space committee meetings, LUAC committee meetings. He had some high-level plans. My question is, on your conditional waiver, quote, you said, would not necessarily go through the existing development. Now, I'd like to know, where will these roads for ingress and egress be in this development if you have these high-level plans? And you also said you had some exhibits.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you for raising that. So he is going to build a new access road. It's hard to explain it with my hands. Coming down to Hedges Pond Road.
Mm-hmm.
So that he has an easement on the property that kind of cuts down that way. So on the front end of the property, not on the back end of the property.
So he wouldn't use any of those right-of-ways that are on Quail and Great Woods?
The intention is for him to explore that easement and use that as the primary ingress and egress. It's something that, if he were able to do that, would be mutually advantageous, because the developer, through the negotiations that we had, was very aware of the concern that would be raised by routing it through an existing residential neighborhood as opposed to having their own entrance through that easement.
And if you did have some high-level plans or exhibits, was there a mention of how many housing units would be built in that development?
It was not. So in order to do something like that, that would be 10 to 20,000 or so of engineering and planning costs to draw up those conceptual drawings that you see if you ever go to like a planning board meeting or a ZBA meeting. So prior to the acquisition of the parcel, that was not something that they were prepared to do. But they did have a general outline of what the intention would be in a conceptual phase.
And if he did go the way of 40B, say, what would be the maximum amount of units that he could construct?
Well, Mr. Sheridan has never developed a 40B project. That was part of the analysis of this, as opposed to like Atlantic Country Club a year ago. That was clearly going to be a 40B based on the economics of that. Whereas this, and that was somebody that's from out of town that we don't really have a track record with. This is somebody that we do have a body of work that you can go see as to what types of projects he or she or they, in the sense of a corporation, is generally constructs in the communities that they work in. And the types of projects that this developer constructs are that workforce housing, and the density varies, but it depends. But it's that trying to meet that donut hole market, but not 40B levels of
But
density.
he has the right to build that if he does choose to go that direction.
To build a 40B.
Mhm.
Well, so right now, there appears to be a number of projects in the pipeline that may get out ahead of that in the sense of a 40B is only permissible without community input in the event that we're not at 10% subsidized housing inventory. And although the specifics of some of those projects remain also nebulous, there are several others in the queue that appear to be getting us to the point where that may not be a going threat in the near term.
Okay, thank you.
And then the other thing that I would add to that is that it's, regardless of whether, it's not, a 40B is not what's anticipated here, but he still will have to put aside 10% of that housing as affordable.
Yeah, my major concern is the traffic, the influx of
Right.
traffic
Yeah.
through
I understand.
our neighborhood.
Yeah. Concerned about that, too. Mr. Cohen.
So I just wanted to, right now, we're currently in safe harbors, so a 40B couldn't be utilized against the town right now. So 40B is not an option until, I think, we have about a year left on the safe harbor. And the town is doing everything it possibly can to look at different options where we can get back into safe harbor a year from now, keeping us not subject to a 40B. So there are things going on internally trying to work towards that end goal, because obviously we don't want to be subject to a 40B where the town is kind of limited from the permitting process and these things are put upon us and they're burdensome. So I just wanted to make note of that. Thank you.
Mr. Quintal, sorry.
That's okay. I forgot your name a couple times.
Sorry.
Derek, if I may, we have enough stuff to say on the books that we will be in safe harbor once everything's permitted. Like, is it Claremont or Clearwater? They keep changing the names over there.
Yeah, the old Claremont project
Right.
has put us in safe harbor for 2 years, and as Mr. Cohen had pointed out, that safe harbor right now is set to expire in about August of 27.
27, so that's really not a factor in this decision. I don't feel it is. And that's going to help us going forward naturally, because every corner we turn around, we won't be facing this. As far as abstaining, if people abstain from this, then you'd probably have a different outcome. So I think that's playing a lot to do with it. Let's call a spade a spade. The town was in leases with Sandy's Beach Stand, and in honesty, I service Sandy's vegetables, and so I did not attend any of the executive sessions for that one reason. Not that I'm not an honest person, but because it doesn't look good. And then when that doesn't look good, then 5 of us don't look good. So that's one thing. And the second thing is the traffic. If I learned anything 4 or 5 weeks ago, forgive me, when we were here, it was the traffic. The roundabouts. We're in Cedarville. I know where we're at. And it's being designed. We got the $1 million or $2 million from the foundation, and we're waiting on MassDOT regardless of when it's gonna hit, which could be, who knows when. I'm hearing 4 years, 5 years, well, it's even a shovel in the ground. So why would anybody in their right mind approve or push a project that's only gonna add to a situation which we already know is bad? This is why people get aggravated with government. Why? Because they don't do what the people want. So that's all I'm gonna say tonight on this subject. Thank you.
Let's get another comment in here. Yes.
I live in Great Woods. My name is Patty Cummings. If
Stand up closer to the microphone.
I'm sorry. If Mr. Sheridan doesn't get the easement on Hedges Pond, how is he going to get into the where is he going to go in the neighborhood? Where is the road going to go? Does anybody know?
Not until engineering plans are developed. Again, I just want to emphasize that our role was strictly.
Because I know.
Just finish. Our role was strictly to exercise our right of first refusal or to waive it. We have nothing to do with the development or any,
Because I know
plans.
Lander's easement isn't gonna cut
Okay.
it down there, and because I know people down there. So I highly doubt it's gonna go through Hedges, so it's gonna go through our neighborhood. And you guys don't know anything else about that? Nothing?
Mr. Cohen might know something.
Well, from the conversations that we had with the potential buyer, they indicated that they had a easement, that when they buy this, if they buy the land, as they're scheduled to buy it from Mr. Landers, the easement travels with the land. And that is an easement that they were able to establish from Mr. Landers owning both parcels to Hedges
Owning
Pond.
the two parcels?
Yeah, so he has given them, our understanding is that he has given them an easement so that they can egress the site from Hedges Pond Road rather than going through the Mountain Hill Great Woods neighborhood. So there are, that's our understanding. But thank you for pointing that out. I'll, revisit that and make sure that that's an accurate statement.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Eric Cody. I live about a mile and a half up the road. I'll try not to make things worse, but I will tell you that the other gentleman from Ellisville pretty much captured a lot of what I would have said. Along those lines, I'd like to say something forward-looking, that if you ever have another opportunity like this, that you not disenfranchise us. What you're hearing tonight is that people were dying to be involved in a public conversation about what to do with this property. And by going behind closed doors and shortening the decision timeframe, you basically cut us out of the picture. And I hope that there's a lesson learned here. As far as some comments Mr. Canty has made, optimistically thinking that sand removal will not be an issue here, I want to make clear, I'm speaking for myself, even though I'm a member of the Earth Removal Bylaw Review Committee, but that is a concern I have. This is an individual property owner who came in last year and went before the ZBA looking for a special permit for earth removal to take 2 million cubic yards of sand out of that property. He was denied by the ZBA, and I did a calculation at the time. That amount of sand has the mass of 25 Forrestal class aircraft carriers. I mean, we're talking massive amounts of sand. It's the same property. So I don't see why he wouldn't still be considering working with Mr. Sheridan to remove vast quantities of sand as part of the development. So, and by the way, I can tell you as far as what the committee I'm on is doing, if you've been to any of the meetings, you would see that the word incidental is considered poisonous because it isn't defined in the current bylaw. I think some of us on the committee, me in particular, want it removed from the bylaw entirely and to have some other way to judge whether the sand mining, sand and gravel removal, where that stands versus the primary purpose that's been stated for that development. And that's a matter of public record. So anyway, I hope we don't end up having this conversation again in the near future. It's very frustrating for people in this community.
No, we can feel your frustration, and to a great extent, we also share your frustration because, as I've said consistently throughout this process, this was a very difficult decision. We had imperfect options, and we had to choose the option that we felt would be in the best interest of the entire town. I just want to address the public comment issue, because we did hear quite a bit of public comment through letters and phone calls and public comment that we had at the select board meetings during the months that we were talking about this. And a number of us did attend an open session that the Community Land and Water Coalition so graciously put on. So we do know that everyone in this room wished for a different outcome than what happened. But again, just to reiterate, we had a set of facts that we examined, including public comment, and we had to find a path forward in order to exercise our right of first refusal. We had to find a path forward where it worked for the town financially, legally, and having an impact on taxpayers to purchase that land, and we just could not see that path. So we chose the other option that was available to us. Mr. Cohen.
So, Mr. Cody, can you just come to the microphone back? I had a quick question for you. You mentioned something that was pretty important. You're on a committee, the Sand and Gravel Committee. They're looking at the bylaw, and you're moving through that process. So, one, could you give us a quick update that when you meet, the date that you meet, so that the audience and the people listening at home know what time you meet and when you meet? Maybe they can zoom in and participate, at least listen, because I've been going to these meetings and they're very educational and you go into great detail about incidental. But right now you're doing something that's really kind of fascinating. You're going through the bylaw line by line, and the board is examining each line to see where they could improve the circumstance. So if people are really worried about sand and gravel in Plymouth, you need to participate in Mr. Cody's weekly meeting. So if you could tell us the time and date and whether or not you can.
First of all, they're all posted, as all town meetings, committee meetings are. So if you go to the town, the agenda center, you will see we meet on Thursdays, typically from 4 to 6 p.m. in the town hall. The room changes. The next meeting actually is this Thursday at 4 o'clock. And then there's one 2 weeks after that. And they're all posted. All the minutes and agendas are posted at least 48 hours in advance. And, what Mr. Cohan described, we're actually, and again, this is all public record. I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee here. But the approach we've taken was to look at 30 other Massachusetts towns and look for best practices. And we've actually categorized that. That information is available to anybody who wants to see it. And we've actually gone through and figured out, how to fix what we think are defects in the current earth removal regulation. And I think we've made a lot of progress. It's a tedious process, to say the least, as he sits through it, but he's working on his cell phone a lot of the time. So, but please, come. Our meetings are not attended by very many people. Mr. Golden has sat in, Mr. Cohan. We've had one or two other visitors, but this is all transparent. It's out there. You can connect up by Zoom as well. So please.
Can I ask you a question? So what are you saying about incidental, since as of now it's not out? You haven't been able to eliminate it. But how are you working around that?
What, the word incidental?
Yes.
Yeah, the concept that the committee is working on right now is, and again, if you were at our last meeting, you would have heard the discussion about this, is that if developers, if project applicants were required to submit data on the economic value of material that was to be removed from the development site, then that could be compared with the value of the primary purpose that's been proposed. And if the value of the sand is $10 million, then the development is hundreds of thousands, then it's no contest. It has to be denied, period. And actually, that's actually what happened with the Landers Farm development in 2025, where the 2 million cubic yards, I mean, Meg Sheehan had the estimates of what it was worth, but it was many millions of dollars. And in this room, when Mr. Landers was asked during the Cedarville Steering Committee how much the annual net income for the additional cranberry operation was, it was $100,000. And I think, you know, that's, that's sort of the concept behind what's at least being discussed, so.
Thank
But
you.
my point was that
Thank you.
the Sand and Gravel Committee is meeting on a weekly basis, and they're working on this issue, so people should zoom in or go to the rope walk room and listen in, because it is a fascinating discussion made by a committee that's quite impressive. So keep up the good work.
Mr. Canty.
So I just want to reiterate that I understand that there are voices that would like to see the preservation of this land and only the preservation of this land, but we just went through a significant public outreach and data gathering process through the comprehensive plan development process. And the number one community input that we received, again, was on affordability. Preservation of the environment was also a factor, but the number one concern that people of all demographics that participated in that 18-month process with multiple forums all over the community in different areas and regions and online surveys was they were concerned about affordability. And the biggest single concern that they had was the affordability of housing in this community. This deal balances that demonstrated need that was attained through significant public input with conservation interests. It is not an all or nothing. It is not pave the whole thing or create a giant sand pit like at 71 Hedges. It is a balanced approach to a community need that cost the town nothing but some legal fees to achieve. It was ultimately a good deal for the community to address those needs, and it will be demonstrated to be so after the fact. Thank you.
Has anyone not spoken yet? Because now we're doing round two.
I think that one.
No,
No, behind her.
Lauren, you've spoken. There's a woman behind you who I don't think has spoken.
Good evening. My name's Jane Schatz. That's Jayne with a Y, please. I want to reiterate what others have said about thanking you for coming and having a civil conversation. I'm sure that it takes some courage to come here. In my experience, people come to these things because they're really happy about something or because they're not. I think you knew we weren't going to fire up the duck boats. What I've heard this evening is a lot of dissatisfaction about how this vote happened and the outcome of the vote. And what I heard in response is that the board did the best it could and wanted to follow the best interests of the town. But we are the town. So prove us wrong. This isn't the end, this is the beginning. I understand. This vote has happened, it's not going to be reconsidered, so this part is closed. You made that clear, Chairwoman. But there's still a whole lot more that's going to come. And maybe you can do things differently for the future. We hear about the inspector, about the permitting, about the zoning. All of these are new examples for you to gain trust. Show us that this can be something good, because I don't think there's a lot of confidence in this room that this vote was in the best interest of the town. Thank you. And if I can just say, Chairwoman, in all fairness, it seems like almost every question you turn to Mr. Canty and invite him to respond first. Perhaps some of the other board members would want to respond first. Thank you.
Thank you for calling that to my attention. I just go with the first hand I see, so sorry. I will be more mindful. Okay.
Someone in the back. Laurie.
Who do we have?
Laurie in the back.
In the far back.
Far back.
Laurie.
Far.
Laurie.
Oh, it's Laurie. Far back.
Take it. First time, people.
Hi, Laurie.
Hi, I'm Lori Downs. I live in precinct 17. So I'm hearing, I hear you all with what has happened. What do we do moving forward? You know, how do you say we have a new inspector with the sand, Mr. Candy? But how do we hold their feet to the fire? How do we prevent another Hedges Pond? I was listening to Mr. Cody. Mr. Cody, I hope this is in your bylaw, but I didn't hear anything about a bond or, you know, and for the timing. Will this bylaw be coming before town meeting in the fall, like really soon, so that we can pass an effective bylaw and put these people's feet to the fire before they start building?
I don't know what the timing is of the bylaw. Mr. Cohen?
I've had a chance, and Mr. Cody can speak to it, I've had a chance to attend their meetings. Right now, their Springtown meeting did free up some money for the purpose of hiring a consultant to help the committee perfect their bylaw. So they're in the middle of that RFP process of bringing on board a consultant to work on that bylaw. So my understanding is it's not ready, most likely will not be ready when the warrant closes in the second week of August. So most likely it will be in the spring of '27. Something like this might go forward. If Mr. Cody's here, he might be able to logistically confirm that.
Yeah, unfortunately, this gets into an area where only the chairwoman can actually speak to this kind of a subject. Michelle Christensen would have to answer that.
Right. I was just referencing what I heard in those meetings when attending them.
Okay, thank you. Another question, Mr. Williams. We started with you, so.
I just wanted to bring to your attention a little bit of math that I did. And the math, to me, suggests that the $5 million is a darn good deal. Let's assume that there are 50 kids in that development at an educational cost of somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 apiece. How long would it take to recoup that $5 million? Well, if you say $20,000 a student, it's 5 years. If you say $15,000 a student, it's still only 7 years. I doubt that that analysis was done, but I suggest that in the future, you learn to recognize a bargain when you see one, because that $5 million was a bargain. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Yes, Ms. Holland. Yes, yes.
Thank you for doing round two.
The lucky winner.
I want to just return to sand for a moment, because that's really on everyone's mind. We were all there at the meetings where Mr. Landers and his lawyer and his architect and everybody talked about cranberries, and we all knew, and I remember you, Mr. Quintal, saying, let's call a spade a spade. We're talking about sand. That sand is still there. It's still valuable. Who could blame Mr. Sheridan for thinking, yes, I'm going to build some houses and I'm going to get some sand? And this word incidental is really sticking in my craw. I would like to see an independent survey done before anybody does anything there on the land he intends to clear cut and remove the topsoil and remove the earth and find out what is actually there at the beginning and what is actually there at the end. And I know we don't need to assure you that we will be watching every truck. Just what you said, Mr. Quintal. This is a neighborhood that does not need one more truck going down the road where children are going to school, where there are camps, where there are massive curves. We're still dealing with, for a whole nother year with Mr. Pontiff. A whole nother year he's going to be over there. It's unbelievable. I know you spoke with him. I wish you'd tell us about your conversation with Mr. Pond. It can't be possible that he's going to dig. I mean, is it going to really be twice this size? But we don't want to take a chance on someone making a lot of money off very expensive sand and hiding behind the fig leaf of, I'm going to put up some affordable housing. We know what's there. He knows what's there. And we all know he knows. And so does Mr. Landers. These are men who are in business to make money, but we don't want them making money off of our sand. Please let us know if we can do something ahead of time to find out what is there, and after the fact to find out what has been removed. That would certainly quiet us.
Okay, I will definitely look into that. Thank you. Okay, more comments. Oh, Pat.
Pat Adelman, Precinct 12. Thank you for letting me have my second question. The Great Hall at Hedges Pond Recreation Area. I know it's under a study along with Forges Field about how best to use those facilities. But I've also heard that the Herring Pond tribe wants to use the building, and I'm wondering if you can speak to us about that. Thank you.
Thank you. We did have some discussions about that. Mr. Cohen, do you want to fill us in?
I guess maybe Mr. Quintola might be, but from my understanding is obviously a year or so ago, well over a year, Great Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe was recognized by the Commonwealth. We had a reception earlier this year recognizing that. In those discussions, the thought process was about the Great Hall at at Hedges Pond being utilized in some community beneficial way. So we are exploring that as a possibility. So the tribe is engaged with the town with the possibility. But as that evolves, obviously there'll be discussions about how best to move forward. And so that's where we are right now, but we're looking forward to strengthening our relationship with the Great Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe here in southern Plymouth. And this might be that possibility.
Okay. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Speaking of Hedges Pond.
Could you just identify your name?
Oh, Christine Cody again. Speaking about Hedges Pond, and if I do have a question for Mr. Brindisi. If I heard correctly, in your last week town manager's report, you were talking about the success of the half-day summer camp at Hedges Pond, and it was so popular that there was a demand to do an afternoon session also, if I heard that correctly.
That is correct.
And my concern is that Hedges Pond is a place where people in the area go to swim in the summertime. And as it is with the half-day camp, nobody is allowed in. So if you are considering a full-day camp, you need to think about that. And I would also hope that you would come to a Cedarville Steering Committee meeting, that you would open up to the neighborhood so that we can have input and have some sort of ability to be heard and express our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
Just to, Christine, just to respond to that, at Hedges Pond, obviously a huge resource for southern Plymouth. It's the only pond that we own entirely in its acreage, and over the years we've been strategically trying to buy up acreage around Hedges Pond to enlarge it. On the lee side of the pond and the western side of the pond, there is another beach. There, at different times, that was talked about accessing the property during the operational hours of the day camp from another vantage point to separate people visiting the pond to the day campers. So I think we need to revisit that again. It was something we explored 10 years ago, and we should revisit it because we do see a need to increase the day camp, but we also don't want to encroach on the residents' access to this resource during the summer months. So it's something that definitely we'll start to explore.
Before we take another question in the room, Jade, is there anyone on Zoom who has a question? No? Okay. Okay, back to the room. Okay, yes, please.
Just a little tiny question. Carol Beggs, 21
You
Buckskin
just need
Path.
to identify yourself again.
Carol Beggs, 21 Buckskin Path. Any of these high-level documents, and forgive me, I'm not very used to this process, are these all available to the public, or are they available through a Freedom of Information Act request?
Yeah, which documents are you
Well,
referring
you've
to?
referred to several times high-level documents. I know there's the memo of understanding. I don't know where to get a copy of that, and I'm not sure everybody does.
Yeah, you can make a request for that through, Jade, can you share the contact information, how one would request documents? Connor Anderson's
Yeah, through our
details.
public records access officer, Connor Anderson, and you can do that through the town website or by emailing him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
So just wanted to add to the request. If you do request from Connor Anderson, the archivist for the town, under the Freedom of Information Act, this memo of understanding that you're looking for, it looks as it could be up to 30 days to experience that wait time, or what is the wait time?
So under the public records law, the town must respond within 10 days.
10 days.
Yes.
Is there a chance we can respond earlier, knowing that somebody wants wants the memo? Why can't we, if they call, if they email?
If it's
could we put it online, or-
if it's readily available, the town will respond within 48 hours.
48 hours. I just was trying to make it as efficient as possible, that when the residents ask for this memo, we've been talking about it extensively today. It's been discussed at the last meeting extensively. We probably should have a copy of it here tonight for people to pick up. I just want to make it easier for residents to get a hold of these documents. I was just thinking it logistically, not to make it any more difficult if someone does contact the town, that they can get, hopefully, a digital version of that sent to them.
They absolutely can. Again, Connor Anderson typically will respond within 48 hours.
Okay.
But under the law, he has up until 10 days to respond. And he typically doesn't take the full 10 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Lauren, you had another question?
I do. Is it my turn?
It is. Come on down.
Thanks. Thanks for taking another question. I just wanted to respond to the statement you made about there being lots of public comment before that. And I just wanted to let everyone know that I had asked the entire select board if they could please just delay the vote on this property by 2 weeks so that you could hear directly from people. And Mr. Quintal was the only one who said, I don't see why not. You decided to go ahead and have that vote before folks could be informed, before people could be told about it. The Cedarville Steering Committee did not send out any kind of notice about this meeting. I find that that is very disingenuous, and that there should have been an email notifying residents that a select board meeting was going to be held here tonight. Other than individual associations, it's tough to get the word out about things like that. They have a great mailing list, so it would have been nice. But from now on, I will be using Facebook, which I am not a big social media user, but it's just going to be an informational posting. It's called the Cedarville-Ellisville Town News, and I hope everyone will follow it. I promise it will be non-pejorative, and it will just be announcements. So I hope that it will be a way to more efficiently contact everyone. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. Okay. Yes, Caleb.
Oh boy, here comes the 20-something with the dyed hair again. So I talked earlier before about how I, born and raised in Plymouth, live right down the street, wanted to get involved in local government. Because I've worked in Plymouth for most of my life. I was once a pilgrim at Plymouth Plantation. I currently work at the Whale and Dolphin Conservation as their summer intern. So Plymouth means a lot to me. It's my home, and I've been struggling to stay here. My partner actually had to leave the state because she couldn't afford to live here with me anymore. So when I hear the word affordable describe a $400,000 house or a $500,000 house, what I really want us to ask is, who is that affordable for? Who is that? Who? And then, you know, the 1.2s that are attainable. When there is no opportunity for young people, there's little work, very poor pay. We can't save. And when I hear that other people can afford to live in my home just because they have the money to stay here and not the heart and the loyalty and the love of this place, it's wicked depressing. Because I want to live here. I want to live here. I want to work here. I want to have my family here. I want to have my dogs here. I just, frankly, can't afford it. But I see a place where there is some hope for young people and for cities, for people. Recently, everybody knows about Zoran Mandani out in New York City, but he instituted a pied-à-terre tax, which is a property tax on second homes. So, because of that tax, they're now able to give free meals to their students and universal daycare. I bet there are a lot of people in Plymouth who own a second home that they don't live in that I'd love to live in. So I know a lot of what has been said today has been complaints about things that have already happened, and it's difficult to be leaders because so often you are tasked with imagining the future and creating it and legislating it. This could really be something for Plymouth. And the property tax portfolio, it's been on fire for decades now. It is not sustainable. We need to look for different ways to get involved. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you. Caleb, sincerely, thank you for representing your entire generation here tonight. really appreciate that. But we definitely hear you, and I know Mr. Canty talks a lot about the need to find more jobs, more well-paying jobs for people like you. Tomorrow night, we're going to take a baby step when we hold our economic development workshop, trying to come up with an action plan for bringing in the kinds of industries and businesses that will provide a livable wage that we think will really make a difference there. So I do appreciate that. And we have looked into a different property tax level on second homes, because there are some communities that will charge a higher rate. In Plymouth, believe it or not, it's just not economically feasible to do that because we don't have enough volume of second homes in order to make it work. So we'd just be shifting the burden onto really back onto our taxpayers. So it didn't make good sense. The next time we have our tax workshop, I think it's like December timeframe, we'll do a presentation on that just to show how that works. Okay. Yep. Mr. Canty.
Yeah, so following up on the last bit that was mentioned first, and then I have some others, but I agree that the ability to tax people's second homes equitably would be a powerful tool in the town's toolbox. The mayor of New York gets to work under state of New York law, which is much more favorable in that particular area. We're confined by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts law, which, as was alluded to earlier, really just shifts the burden onto the remaining taxpayers in a way that would actually doing the math, make it worse for a lot of Plymouth residents with only one home, based on the way the income brackets are dillied out with that. So that just, unfortunately, that's the reason why, the way that the structure works here is very different than it does in New York City and New York State. And that's because of the differences in our respective state laws. I think that's something that should be looked at the State House level, because I think what you're seeing here in Plymouth with a lot of our young folks not being able to stay here, 5 years ago, the canary in the coal mine was Cape Cod, the same issue, that they'd priced their people, their next generation, off the Cape. And it's like coming up the arm, like gangrene at this point. And I think it's a real problem. And I think we spend a lot of time talking about seniors and talking about the needs that they have, which I agree that they do have needs. They live on a fixed income. They've already made many of the economic decisions, perhaps all the economic decisions they're going to be able to make, and they need to execute the plan that they put together when they were working. But my biggest concern is that there's not enough people talking about 35 and unders, because I think that demographic is being left out of the economic conversation in this country. And the post-war middle-class wealth-building opportunities that existed don't work anymore. And that by the time we realize that it didn't work, those people's lives and opportunities to make up that middle-class wealth will have come and gone. And that's a huge problem that I think is being unaddressed. It's very personal to me because I graduated college in 2008 when the world collapsed around me from decisions of other people that didn't care about how it was going to affect me walking into that. And I think it has only continued from there. And I do agree that I wish we weren't talking about 400 to 500,000 being affordable in Plymouth, because I remember, like I said earlier, when I was buying my house 10 years ago, it was a different paradigm. But unfortunately, that's the market reality that we have right now that we can achieve and attain. And I think once we get into that safe harbor with 80% AMI, and we can target 60% AMI, providing legally affordable and lower housing does help bring down the cost of housing stock for all demographics. And I think that and the availability of things in that 400 to 500,000 range will also help bring down and calm some of the peaks that we're seeing that are pricing people like yourself out and people like the people that I care about. A lot of people, I'm 40. A lot of the people that I grew up with in Plymouth couldn't afford to live here. I've got friends that I graduated Plymouth North with that live in Pembroke, that live in Plimpton, that live in Braintree, because it was cheaper for them to live there, but their family's still here. Their friends are still here. They still come here, but they can't live here. And it's only getting worse with people younger than me. And I have friends in their early 30s that I have one in particular that really struggled for a couple of years to be able to buy a house and just lucked out finding one that she could afford. It is becoming an increasingly growing problem in the community. And again, my biggest concern is that if we don't start talking about it and addressing it, then life will have passed that demographic by the time we take steps to correct it. And I think that's the biggest tragedy that we could face. Thank you.
Mr. Cohen.
Yes, I'm just old enough now to go through a couple of cycles. He's 40, I'm 60. So my class graduated in 1983 from Plymouth North. And I often have reunions with my classmates, and many of them live outside this region because it was difficult for them to stay in Plymouth. It was a conversation that we were having 25 years ago, because at that time in the early 2000s, real estate prices were going up. But that's Plymouth. Plymouth has had this problem all my life. I've lived here all my life. I've seen this all my life. It might be the Cape. It might be like gangrene coming up from the Cape. But I've always said this about Plymouth. Plymouth is like in the Goldilocks zone. It's not too far from Boston, not too close. It's affordable. And we have a lot of pressure put on us in terms of our environment and our open space and what type of building will happen in Plymouth. And this brings on, I think, it was stated here tonight, about the cost of services, about $20,000 a kid in the school system. And this is not even talking about fire and police and DPW. So I'm very concerned about the cost of services in terms of how we build out this town. And we should be stopping and looking at our local zoning bylaws. And you're the generation that seems to be coming up now. I've said this to each generation, that the ones above me and now the ones around me and below me, is that we have to start looking at our zoning laws to change them, to create light industrial, which is small businesses that hire people 40 hours a week and give them a livable wage. We have to build a local sustainable economy, and that is by looking at our zoning bylaws and seeing how that can be beneficial. Tonight, the comprehensive plan was talked about and affordability, but it also talked a lot about conservation and preservation and balancing the two. So when you look at that plan, it does speak to both of them. But you, as the next generation coming along, I hope that you take the time to understand how this town is built out, and it's through its bylaws, and we need to modernize those for the 21st century to build a local sustainable economy for your generation to actually live here and work here and buy a home here.
I read the master plan. I actually really liked it. Good work, everybody.
Okay. Any final questions, or are we all talk it out? Yeah, Mr. McKay.
Yeah, hi, my name is George McKay. I happen to be the chair of Precinct 8, and I wanted to thank you for putting us first on your list to visit this community. And I want to thank everybody that spoke here representing our community and how they feel. At one point in time, I thought one item was not being covered, and I raised my hand. You probably saw me, but as the meeting went on, I think that everybody in the room said what they had to say, and we did a complete presentation of where we're coming from as Precinct 8. So I wanted to get up. I'm wearing two hats tonight. The one I just mentioned, the chair of Precinct 8, which is Cedarville, and the other hat, which I have yet to put on.
Here we go.
On a lighter note, I'm with... That's a joke.
That wasn't very nice.
Bill Cohane and I are on the committee, the 250th Anniversary Committee. We're kicking off a first event on the 27th of June, Town Square. We have some brochures out here for you to pick up. It's our first event. The second event will be to work with the 4th of July parade people and get that going this year. It's going to be spectacular. The committee gave the parade people an extra $13,000 so we could have 1/3 more fireworks this year. They also gave the money so we could afford to have a parade this year. In any event, we'd like everybody to attend this. Some of the people in this room are probably going to speak, but I wanted to invite everybody else, and I wanted to thank you for coming and thank everybody else for being here. So that's really all I had to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Mr. McKay, thank you very much for bringing people's attention to this event on Saturday, June 27th, this Saturday at 1 o'clock. The events that will take part in Town Square will be the commencement of the 250th activities for this year. And I want to take the time to thank the board's foresight, Mr. Quintel's foresight, to create a 250th committee. In assembling different groups here in Plymouth. There are numerous groups, museums, organizations, volunteers. They're all working very closely together. I just want to commend them. I go to their meetings, I sit in the meetings to see where I can help, but it's very impressive to see this community group spring into action, understand time is of the essence, and they're putting together nice events throughout the year. So I wanted to thank you and all the museums and all the organizations and all the individuals that are making that committee move forward. So thank you very much.
Well, yeah, thank you for the comments. The other thing, you probably heard Matt Travaris talking about funding the parade this year, and so he thought it was going to be very difficult for us to get the money together to support the parade. And so this was about 3 or 4 months ago, and I made up a banner, which is in the back of the thing, says, "Help us support the parade." Well, the town meeting voted to give the parade this year extra money, $50,000 for the parade. The group I'm on, the 250th Anniversary Committee, gave the parade another $13,000 so they could have more fireworks. But if tradition holds true, next year, which is not going to be the 250th anniversary, we're not going to have enough money to have a 4th of July parade. So we've got to do some things beginning after this 4th of July parade to make sure we have things in place to support next year's 4th of July parade. The other thing that I thought about is on these brochures we're giving out is the first 2 paragraphs of the Declaration of Independence. It doesn't list the 26 criteria they listed that why they were mad at the king. But one of the things they did is they said, we're tired of the current form of government and we want to make a change. Some of what I heard tonight is in line with that discussion. We don't like the form of government we have because the results come out different than we expect. One of the things we're going to be doing over the next year is we're going to be forming a charter commission to look at whether we should have a town form of government, which we have now, or whether we should become a city. So I'd like everybody to read the Declaration of Independence, 2 paragraphs, and in the back of their mind think about where we are today in Plymouth and whether we're satisfied with the current form of government.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Great. Okay. Well, I just want to just close out this portion of the meeting. We have a couple more select boardy things to do after the public comment closes. But I just wanted to thank everyone for coming and for sharing your thoughts and for being so candid. We need to be held accountable for our decisions, of course. So we do appreciate hearing all of your comments and thoughts. And I can guarantee you that this board is not always going to make decisions that make everybody happy. We're not always going to agree on decisions. But I can also guarantee you that I will always be completely transparent about what the goal of our decision is, what options we are considering, why we chose the option that we did, and what its impact will be on the community. I can guarantee you that you'll hear that. We all tried to do that here tonight for you, and even though, we didn't come to the same conclusion that you would have, I hope that you at least can appreciate that we did go through a deliberative process to get to where we are today on this decision and on every decision that we make going forward. So with that, we will move on to the next session, which is, I almost said town manager's report, but we heard that, but select board discussion. New business, anyone?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay, Bill, go ahead.
Do you want to go first?
No, your finger
All right,
up
new
first.
business. Okay, new business. I brought it up briefly tonight. The Sand and Gravel Committee has been meeting for some time now. They're working through the RFP process to get the consultant hired. I just wanted to, next week, you could give us a brief update in your town manager's report, like where are we on that process and making sure that we hire a consultant in a timely manner. I think there's some timeframes associated with that money. So I know they're barreling towards those dates, so I just wanted to know what the status was on the RFP and the consultant for the Sand and Gravel Committee. And then other new business. Also, at some point, an update on where we are with Pilgrim Hall. That project is coming fruition. I've been contacted by some constituents concerned about the last billing process associated with it, so I would like to put that on the agenda at some point to get a presentation from Pilgrim Hall on a future agenda.
So for that, Mr. Cohen, we're planning to have a meeting with the representatives from Pilgrim Hall to see how we can resolve the question that they're asking about releasing that final disbursement. So that should be happening, and then if we need to bring it to the select board, we can do that. But separately, we can certainly have a presentation, have Pilgrim Hall come in to do a presentation about what's happening over there, just like a general overview.
So there is a meeting planned
Yep,
with Pilgrim
we-
Hall in the
we
town?
are-
When is that meeting planned?
We don't
Is
have
that
it.
being hosted by the select board?
We don't have it scheduled yet, but it will be, I can talk to you about that if you'd like.
I'd like to participate in that. If there is something that's going on about Pilgrim Hall, that would be helpful.
Okay.
It is, so those are my two new business items.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Quintel.
Yeah, two, actually. One on my way here tonight, State Road, Derek. If somebody could get a hold of MassDOT and see what's going on with this road, it's terrible. I mean, I have a 2008 truck, but man, it was bumpy.
You're
This whole
referring
state
to,
road, yeah, usually I come Route 3, but tonight I came the State Road, and that, you know, I don't know what their plan is, but they need to do something with it. It's awful.
yeah, we have become close friends with the regional director at MassDOT, so we can talk to him.
Thank you. And the other thing, I was wondering if board has no objections, if we could lower the flag at Town Hall for a week in honor of Jean Lane. I think would be a nice gesture, unless somebody objects to that.
Objection.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, great. Mr. Canty, anything? Okay. Old business. Okay, Mr. Cohen.
Old business. So old business. I've mentioned thank you tonight for the little update during the discussion with the neighborhood or the village of Cedarville about executive session, that we're working to put that on the agenda.
Yep.
I've also asked for kind of an explanation of how Chapter 61 works, and specifically, some of the pending legislation that is, in my research online, it seems as if there's some pending legislation that's before the House and the Senate, of possible changes to Chapter 61. So I thought maybe it might be a good idea to combine the two. I've requested them in the past, maybe for efficiency's sake, it could be, we could put the two together. That might be something, but I'll leave that to the chair to determine how she wants to move forward on those two requests that I had under old business. And the other thing is that I know we have a meeting coming up for the update on the acceptance of road policy.
Yep.
But I do want to put on the agenda at some point an item that allows for us to vote on a possible article for town meeting for Shallow Pond. So I do want to put that out there so we can put it. I see that it's nicely expressed on our agenda. It says June and July, but there's no reason why we couldn't add a few more dates there so people could see what was coming out in August as we get ready for town meeting. So those are the things I'd like to see. Make sure that we have executive session in Chapter 61 in Shallow Pond on this upcoming agenda sheet that you've nicely put together.
Yep, they're all on the agenda, Mr. Cohen, and they will appear on the, I believe they're appearing on the agenda that you will receive next week. We just did the work to put them on the agenda yesterday, so they will be showing up on the next agenda.
Yeah, and the final thing is that these neighborhood meetings are great. I think it's great to get out to the neighborhood. I supported the vote to resume them, but I did indicate that I thought it was important that if we were going to go out into the neighborhood, I wanted to see if there was some way that we could reach out to the steering committees and the town meeting representatives in that area to make sure that they had an opportunity to look at the draft agenda and come back with suggestions and priorities. I know you indicated that you made a series of phone calls to achieve that. Just think that we really need to focus on how that's done and includes more people on the board as we try to build together these neighborhood village meetings, that we should have an agenda that people participate in gaining that information of that neighborhood and their priorities. So it's something that I hope to work with the board to work on these future agendas in the neighborhood, because if we are going to go to the neighborhood, I'd like to see that something that the board takes on together.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that was the process that we've been following. I think I did reach out to the precinct chairs and also the chair of the Cedarville Steering Committee and asked them to poll their respective precincts and committee members for ideas on topics, and I put that in, so I forwarded you the email that I got back, so I think everybody had that information. There were only 2 topics that came up in this part of town, as you can imagine. But I'm happy to discuss with you, Mr. Cohen, another process if you want a more rigorous investigation into what the issues are in each area, other than asking the precinct chairs. Mr. Canty.
Mr. Cohen, when you say you'd like to combine Chapter 61 with an explanation of how Chapter 61 works with another topic?
No,
What other topic?
So I have called for a presentation to the board by staff about the executive session, how that works, and how it's used, and the purposes. And I also called for an explanation of Chapter 61, and I've been calling for those too, and I didn't want to be greedy and demand 2 nights, 2 different nights. So I thought maybe it might be efficient because of the 2 subject matters, maybe they put them together. I leave it at the pleasure of the board. I just made it as a suggestion of something that we should think for a future agenda item. I leave it at the board to the chairwoman to determine how best she wants to put that on the future agenda. I just suggested it as an efficiency thing.
I would suggest that both topics, Chapter 61 is complicated enough as a standalone issue, and only a small portion of executive session would be related to Chapter 61, and there are many other topics under that, so I would suggest that it would be certainly better for clarity to have them separate.
That's fine.
And when we, just spoiler alert here, when we have our agenda item for the executive session, we're going to combine that with a discussion about some changes we might need to be making to our own agenda format based on open meeting law. It's been brought to our attention that we might need to be a little bit more specific in certain areas, so we're going to have our legal counsel come in and talk to us about both executive session and about some options that we might want to consider for the agenda. So those 2 will be combined in one agenda item, and I agree with you, Mr. Canty, based on what I've seen about the new regulations being proposed around Chapter 61, that is a much lengthier discussion. So we will work to get those all in. But Mr. Cohen, please know that all of the items that you're requesting are on a future agenda coming up soon. Okay, anything else? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, we are
Wait a minute, vote. You gotta vote.
I'm sorry, we have to vote. Sorry, I'm so excited. We have to vote. Okay. Discussion, no. Okay.
Vote yes.
Mr. Canty, Mr. Quinto, Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
and myself, yes, we're adjourned.
I vote yes